Chapter 3009. While Chen Zhao was gathering with Stephen and Rasfa, Chen Zhao's phone rang. Glancing at the caller, Chen Zhao said to the two, "I'll take this." "President, I have something to report to you." "What is it?" "Remember the elves you let go 2 nights ago?" "Yes." "What did they do now?" "They didn't cause any trouble. At least, they haven't caused any trouble yet." West paused and said, "It's just that those people bought a batch of wet demon star powder." "What is this thing used for?" "Is it the material for a large-scale killing spell?" "It's not used to kill. I heard from Ruan Fax Ben that this wet devil star powder is used to create a temporary anti-magic domain." "Oh. It's probably used to kill and rob people," Chen Zhao said casually. "Ignore them. As long as they don't cause any trouble, they can do whatever they want." Chen Zhao thought for a moment and added, "Our people have to be careful too. If they're using it for revenge, the anti-magic field is still a threat. If you find out that they're targeting us, contact me immediately. Don't do it like last time." "Got it, President." West didn't dare to think that he could do it anymore. Last time, a woman had almost wiped out the top fighting force of the supernatural organization. West finally understood where the supernatural organization's limits were. If Chen Zhao was here, the organization had no limits. They could easily destroy a 1,000-year-old family. But without Chen Zhao, the supernatural organization would at most be a second-rate force. So, West didn't bother anymore. It was enough to know the location. Now, the organization had money, manpower, and resources. It was just a matter of time. They didn't have enough resources. They needed enough time to turn resources into power. The supernatural organization's power was increasing very quickly. At least, it was faster than normal forces. Then arrange for a few foreign organizations and forces to have friendly exchanges. This was pretty much the future direction of the supernatural organization. Simply put, it was to grow wretchedly. As for the wet demon star powder that the Shadow Elves had bought, even if it was really used to deal with the supernatural organization, it wasn't a big threat. Of course, it shouldn't be that serious. It seemed that the Shadow Elves were quite smart. He didn't seem like someone who would do something stupid. Therefore, it was necessary to take precautions, but there was no need to be paranoid. Should I call the Shadow Elves and warn them? Forget it, I'll let them finish the fight quickly and get out of Los Angeles. He hoped that they would be more obedient this time and not cause the TV station to take action again. Chen Zhao hung up and returned to Stephen and Rasfa. "Stephen, where exactly do you need money?" "If you really need money, Chen and I have a lot of cash." In fact, Rasfa was the same as Stephen. They were both billionaires, but their cash wasn't even enough for Chen Zhao's daily income. However, Rasfa could borrow money. Both private loans and banks were willing to lend him money. This was the advantage of a credit system. The rich would never lack money. There's no need for that. I was worried that it wouldn't be enough, so I was prepared to borrow some from you. However, after the ruby crystal was auctioned off for a sky-high price, I don't have to worry about that anymore. All right. Speaking of which, did you make any investments? Or to repay the loan? All right, stop asking. Stephen clearly didn't want to continue this topic, so he decisively interrupted the two of them. "All right, call us anytime if you need help." Chen Zhao and Rasfa didn't plan on asking anymore. Because he had drunk, Stephen had Famtis drive Chen Zhao back. Of course, that bit of alcohol was like plain water to Chen Zhao. However, it was basic not to drive after drinking. "Famtis, how's Evan recently?" Famtis hesitated, as if thinking about something. "I'm not sure if he's good or bad." "What's wrong? Did something happen to him?" He's been eating a bit too much recently, Famtis said. Also, he seems to be going through a second puberty. It's good to be able to eat. Second puberty is normal too. Felines have a certain chance of going through a second puberty. But if you're free, I hope you can come visit me. I didn't know that felines could go through a second puberty, but I'm sure that Evan's second puberty is abnormal. Are you sure? Alright, I'll go visit when I'm free. Oh, where's that? Why is it so bright? Famtis pointed at the light on the road ahead. It wasn't her first time driving for Qinzhou. She was very familiar with this road. However, she didn't remember such a strange road. Qinzhou was also confused. Strange, he couldn't sense anything with his domain either. The moment the car entered the bright road, a fireball smashed toward them. Boom! Amidst the flames, Qinzhou carried Famtis and left the wrecked sports car. What happened? Famtis's face was pale. After all, she was an experienced former mercenary. However, she'd felt death from the explosion just now. If Qinzhou wasn't beside her, she really would have died. It's nothing. It's just a normal assassination. Qinzhou shrugged. It's just a pity about my car. 2 sports cars were wrecked in less than 2 months. I bought the full-color series and now 3 of them have been wrecked. At this rate, the full-color series won't last past the year. Qinzhou scratched his head. Do you think I should find a car manufacturer to customize an indestructible car, like Washington one? Chen, is it a normal thing for you to be blasted into the sky in a car? Actually, it's not that many, Qinzhou said helplessly. Including this time, it's 2 in total. And they're all concentrated in these 2 months. We don't have any weapons now. Are you sure it's okay? Famtis looked at the figures appearing on the 2 sides of the road. He was ready to fight at any time. Don't worry. No matter what happens, you'll be fine as long as you stand behind me. President of the Supernatural Organization, you look really confident. Delatour walked out of the darkness. Qinzhou looked at Delatour and then at the shadow elves around him. Did you forget what I told you the day before yesterday? Or did my words cause you to misunderstand something? Just then, a beam of fire descended from the sky. Go-See descended with a red crystal. Go-See was about to speak when Frigg suddenly said, "Escape." Chapter 30:10. Escape. Go-See had a feeling that Frigga would set her up again. Yes, this is the feeling. What do you mean? You're facing a monster. Run. Frigg repeated. He's the one I'm looking for. He's the one who can unlock my seal. Is that him? He doesn't look like anything special, Go-See said frankly. To her, Qinzhou was just a so-so. He didn't even seem to be as good as Lila Gavich. Don't be so ignorant. You can't see it because the gap between the 2 of you is too big. In any case, don't make a move on him. Frigga noticed that there was something wrong with Go-See's gaze. To her despair, she found that she couldn't persuade Go-See. At this moment, Go-See's eyes were filled with eagerness. Instead of making her cower, Frigga's words ignited her fighting spirit. Perhaps, as Frigga had said, he was no match for him. But Go-See felt that Qinzhou was currently in the anti-magic field. He might even have a chance to exchange a few blows with him. Qinzhou also felt Go-See's gaze. In fact, it wasn't just Go-See who had such a look in her eyes. Everyone else had the same look in their eyes. Mr. President. Delatour took a step forward with a smile on his face. Actually, I came here today mainly to ask you about the Crimson Star. I hope you can enlighten me. Is this the attitude of asking for advice? I don't see any sincerity from you. Mr. President, I mainly want to ensure that we can speak equally. I have no ill intentions. Chen Zhao laughed. Talk as equals. You seem to have misunderstood something. No matter what you've prepared, it doesn't mean that you're qualified to talk to me on equal terms. Sigh. De la Latour sighed. Sure enough, the strong are always so proud, so arrogant that it's annoying. In the end, we still need to fight before we can talk properly. Chen, do you need me to do something? Famtis asked in a low voice. She had seen what Chen Zhao was like when he fought. However, it seemed that these people were not ordinary people. For example, when Go Si appeared, it was clearly not the style that a normal person should have. She felt that Chen Zhao would be in big trouble. Famtis had no intention of backing down. Instead, he felt that Chen Zhao didn't just have to face a strong enemy. He even had to protect himself, a burden. She felt very apologetic. Therefore, he hoped that he could do something within his power. At the very least, he couldn't drag Chen Zhao down. Since these people came prepared, they would definitely not give up so easily. No need. They're just a bunch of ignorant brats. Chen Zhao shook his head. Humph. De Latu was very unhappy with Chen Zhao's attitude. Do it. With Delatour's order, the 4 shadow elves surrounded Chen Zhao and cast spells at him. Each of the shadow elves emitted a black aura, and within this black aura were several evil spirits. The evil spirits flew to the shadow under Chen Zhao's feet and bit it. Famtis felt her scalp go numb. She had never seen anything like this before. A hint of surprise appeared in Goth's eyes. Why can they use magic? They should be in the anti-magic field too, right? They use a special spell to connect their auras together, making it seem like they're one person. As long as one person stands outside the anti-magic field, it's the same as everyone standing outside, so no one is affected. It's like one person standing at the edge of the anti-magic field. As long as their entire body isn't in the field, the anti-magic field won't work, Frigg said. As Frigg spoke, Go Si also looked outside. There were indeed a few shadow elves standing there. How big is this anti-magic field? About 30 meters. Goth understood and looked at Chen Zhao. The shadow elves use the Dark Shadow Tribe's natural talent, Dark Spirit. They can directly use the evil spirits raised in the shadows to kill enemies or control them. That person doesn't seem to be able to fight back at all. He's not as strong as you said. As soon as Goth finished speaking, there was a sudden explosion in the air. The 4 people surrounding Chen Zhao spat out blood without warning. The dozen shadow spirits that had been biting Chen Zhao's shadow were instantly crushed. Goth and De Latu's expressions changed. Famtis looked shocked. Famtis didn't understand what had happened. In fact, Goth and De Latu didn't understand either. What did you do? You can still use magic here. Ha! What did you do? Chen Zhao asked back. Why can't I use magic? Chen Zhao had thought that the guy had only limited his senses. But from De Latu's words, it seemed to be more than that. Seems like I've underestimated you. You can still use magic in the anti-magic field, but I just have to restrict most of your magic. Anti-magic field. Chen Zhao was speechless. If De Latu hadn't said it, Chen Zhao wouldn't have thought that he was in the anti-magic field. However, De Latu had used the anti-magic field to restrict his magic. He didn't seem to understand Chen Zhao at all. If Chen Zhao wanted to use the anti-magic field to restrict his magic, he would have to create an anti-magic field with a diameter of at least 10 kilometers. Also, Chen Zhao seemed to be a strengthening type. Using the anti-magic field to restrict him. This group of people must have lost their minds. As for de Latu's restriction of most of his magic, Chen Zhao only knew a few spells. Even if he was restricted, it was meaningless. Fine, game time ends here. Go see, do you want to come? If you don't, I'm going to attack. Go see hesitated and looked at Chen Zhao. Frick stopped her again. Go see, don't die. You'll really die. Go see was a bit hesitant. Frick's tone had been so serious both times. Was he really that powerful? How did he break free from the restraints? It wasn't magic. He didn't use any magic. Then how did he do it? He's a strengthening type. Strengthening type. Go see almost laughed out loud. Frick had been talking for a long time, warning and threatening Chen Zhao. In the end, Chen Zhao was an strengthening type. What was there to be cautious about? As long as he kept his distance, he was just a moving sandbag. Since you're not talking, I'll do it myself. De Latu walked up to Chen Zhao. Mr. President, I'll give you one last chance. Tell me now. Or wait until I beat you up before telling me about the Crimson Star. Pop, de Latu's scalp suddenly went numb. He subconsciously turned his body. Following that, a terrifying force brushed past him. Then he saw the road behind him turn into a field of pears. The hard concrete disappeared, replaced by broken pieces and gravel. Chapter 30:11. A small black ball hovered between Chen Zhao's fingers. You better dodge it. Otherwise, you'll probably shatter along with the ground behind you. Chen Zhao pointed and the black ball shot out. It was neither fast nor slow. Drattle's scalp tingled. Boom! Gravel flew everywhere. This time, the black ball landed at a more precise angle. It didn't plow the ground. Instead, it blew up the entire road. Not bad, Chen Zhao said casually. You can dodge my attack. How can you? How can you use magic? Go See's expression also changed. The black ball that Chen Zhao created was terrifyingly powerful. It felt like a light touch would either kill or injure them. Drattle, let me help you, Pop. A small black ball left Chen Zhao's palm and shot out hundreds of times faster than before. The shadow elf exploded on the spot. Blood stained the companions beside him. From now on, anyone who gets close without my permission will explode on the spot. Drattle's expression changed drastically. Clearly, he'd realized that his plan was wrong. He was too stupid to want to kill two birds with one stone. If he'd known, he would have given up. His mission was to get the fake Crimson Star anyway. He'd actually been greedy enough to want the real Crimson Star too. In the end, he'd failed miserably. Go, all go. Drattle was very decisive. He definitely couldn't escape. He could only hope that some of his kind could escape. Damn. What's going on? Why is there a wall? The wall is shrinking. The shadow elves who were trying to escape suddenly realized that a wall had appeared outside the battlefield. It was an invisible wall. No matter how they attacked, they couldn't break through it. Moreover, the wall was slowly shrinking. They didn't give up and wanted to find the hole in the wall. They searched from one end to the other, even looking in the sky. They realized that they couldn't find it at all. You have to defeat me before the wall crushes you. I'm not joking. This time, people will really die, Chen Zhao said, chuckling. Drattle's expression changed. Mr. President, if I say this is a misunderstanding, will you believe me? I will. Chen Zhao nodded. Delatour's face lit up, but then Chen Zhao said, but I don't accept it. Go See saw that the situation wasn't right. She didn't give up on testing Chen Zhao. You won't stop me this time, right? After all, if I don't resist, I'll be dead for sure. It's useless. It's impossible for you to defeat him. As long as one is human, there will always be a weakness. No matter how strong he is, there will still be a limit. Frigga sighed. You're talking about normal people. At that moment, the red crystal in Go C's hand suddenly emitted light. Within the light, a beautiful undignified figure appeared in front of everyone. This figure was full of radiance and holiness. She was obviously beautiful beyond compare, but no one could ever have the heart to profane her. Another god. Chen Zhao looked at Frigga, who had revealed her true form. He could tell that Frigga was not in a normal state. Chen Zhao's words shocked Famudis, Derlatur, and the others. God. Was this figure God? You should hide well instead of appearing in front of me now. Honorable human expert, I was the one who guided her to you, Frigga said. Find me. For what? Let me introduce myself. I'm Queen Frigga of Asgard. Chen Zhao frowned. You're here for revenge. Everyone was confused. Revenge? Why would Frigga want to find this man for revenge? Although you killed Odin and destroyed Asgard, it has nothing to do with me, Frigga said calmly. Everyone felt their scalps go numb. They wondered if they'd heard wrong. Or was Frigga wrong? What had this man done? Kill Odin. Destroy Asgard. Goddess, are you sure you're not joking with us? You're the queen of Asgard, Odin's wife. You're telling me it has nothing to do with you. If something like this happened to Chen Zhao, he definitely wouldn't let it go. It would be a fight to the death. Asgard should have been destroyed 3,000 years ago. The gods shouldn't exist in the world, Frigga said calmly. 3,000 years ago, I tried to persuade Odin, but he didn't want to. He insisted on using his own method, so I divined for him one last time. I saw Asgard, the gods, and Odin's tragic ending. He didn't accept the tragic fate, so he asked me to continue divining and try to change it. I divined again, and it was an even more tragic fate. I repeated it 6 times, but Odin still didn't accept it. On the 7th time, I saw you destroy Asgard and tear the gods' souls into pieces. Odin's soul was devoured by you. I told Odin the result of the divination, but he didn't accept it. He wanted to change his fate, but I rejected him because the more he tried to change his fate, the more tragic it would be. Angered, Odin sealed me. Chen Zhao was like a bystander, quietly listening to Frigga's narration. But everyone else was scared out of their wits. They felt that Frigga was telling a fantasy story. There was such a person who destroyed Asgard in Norse mythology and destroyed the gods. Fine. Even if you're not here for revenge, why are you here? I don't like you Asgardian gods. I'm here to beg you to undo the seal, Frigga said. Frigg said, this is a seal that Odin placed on me. Only the God Slayer, which is you, can open this seal. I don't plan on destroying you for now, but that doesn't mean I'll undo the seal for you. You're thinking too much. No, you will. No, I'm sure I won't. You have 2 daughters, right? Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes. He didn't believe that Frigga would be so stupid as to threaten him with her own daughter. I'm the god of magic, the most outstanding magician in the world. I can be your daughter's teacher. Thank you, but I don't need it. Regardless of whether Frigga wanted revenge or not, Chen Zhao couldn't hand his daughter over to her. What a joke. He'd killed her entire family. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they couldn't live under the same sky. Asking her to be his daughter's teacher? Chen Zhao would be crazy to agree. Your eldest daughter is the Witch of Destruction. Apart from me, no one in the world can teach her. If no one can teach her, I'd rather not let her touch magic. If the Witch of Destruction can't extinguish other lives, then she can only extinguish herself, Frigga said. Chen Zhao's expression changed involuntarily. Frigg continued, in my prophecy, I saw two scenes. One is that she becomes my student, and the other is that she doesn't. Do you want to see the two scenes? I can send you what I see. Chapter 30:12. Everyone's senses were very poor. Frigga's story was like a myth. But the person in question was right before them. And the person in question was their target. Especially Draddle. What had he done? He'd planned to use these 8 or 9 people to plot against a godslayer. A terminator of the god race. How could he have such a stupid idea? How about it? Tell me your decision. Do you accept this deal? I can, but I have to be present every time you come into contact with my daughter. Chen Zhao waved his hand. The red crystal in Go Si's hand fell into his hands uncontrollably. Go Si refused, but she couldn't do anything against Chen Zhao. They weren't his match at all. They would never be. How do I undo the seal? Just pour your magic power in. Fill this red crystal up. Chen Zhao didn't think too much. He poured his magic power directly into the red crystal. At that moment, everyone felt the flood-like magic power in Chen Zhao's body. The people who'd been skeptical about Frigga's story finally understood. Now, they finally understood the difference between them and Chen Zhao. 10 times. 100 times. Or 1,000 times. This indescribably vast magic power made them feel even more hopeless. The comparison was very direct, but not direct enough. They could feel Chen Zhao's magic power. It was indeed very vast. But because it exceeded the limits of their senses, they couldn't fully sense the difference. This was what made them feel the most hopeless. If it was just limited strength, they could still think about fighting. But this almost infinite difference was something they didn't even know how to catch up. Go Si was moved too. Back then, Frigga had told her. Chen Zhao needed 10,000 times more magic power than her to undo the seal. Go Si had been exaggerating. But now, she finally understood that Frigga wasn't joking. Moreover, 10,000 times was far from enough. Because Chen Zhao was pouring out magic power thousands of times more than Go Si's every second. And it was continuous. A few thousand times in 1 second. 10 seconds would be tens of thousands of times. Go Si felt like she had a wrong idea about magic power. Her magic power couldn't even be called magic power. All her magic power wasn't even 1,000th of what Chen Zhao released in 1 second. It lasted for about 3 minutes. The light on the red crystal suddenly dimmed. Chen Zhao let go of it. The red crystal floated in the air. There would be a small flicker every second. Everyone held their breath and stared at the red crystal with their eyes wide open. They knew that they were about to witness the reappearance of a god from a fairy tale. Famtis widened his eyes as well. She had never thought that one day, she would witness a legend. The air was filled with a mysterious aura. Chen Zhao looked at the red crystal in surprise. The others also felt it. Chen Zhao, on the other hand, understood. It was like a masterpiece that was handed down from generation to generation. Others could only see the title and the introduction. Then, from the book's title and introduction, he could see how magnificent and epic the book was. Chen Zhao, on the other hand, could directly read this classic. He could understand and comprehend more directly. Of course, Chen Zhao's understanding was limited. After all, compared to classic novels, he preferred erotic novels. In short, Chen Zhao's foundation was weak. Moreover, the college entrance examination also took the path of sports students. It was destined that he wouldn't be able to gain much from this kind of comprehension. At this moment, with the red crystal as the center, leaf-like nerves began to extend around it. Then, the nerves started to be covered by a layer of flesh and blood. Then, another layer of skin covered the flesh and blood. It was like the process of a life being born. Chen Zhao couldn't see it clearly. But he could feel that Frigga wasn't weaker than Odin. At least compared to Odin, who had lost his body. Frigga was very strong. Of course, her strength wasn't just in combat ability. Combat ability was something that could only be known through actual combat. But what Frigga had demonstrated was profound arcane magic. It was the sublimation of magic after reaching the extreme. It was like how 1 + 1 was 1 + 1 in the eyes of ordinary people. But in the eyes of mathematicians, 1 + 1 was far more complicated than what ordinary people knew. Soon, a graceful figure appeared in front of everyone. But this figure disappeared in the blink of an eye. Soon, it was covered by a white veil. Frigga finally appeared in the world again. She was different from the figure that had appeared through the seal. Now, Frigga was more realistic but also more dreamy. She was too beautiful. It seemed that all the words that could describe beauty could be used to describe her. Her skin was as white as snow, and her eyes were faint golden. Her hair was curled up, and her figure was slender. Everyone was lost in Frigga's beauty. Even women couldn't resist Frigga's beauty. But only Chen Zhao looked at Frigga more directly. Everything was great. The only thing she didn't have was female characteristics. Of course, it wasn't that Frigga didn't have female characteristics. It was that her divinity covered up her female feelings. People could only notice her divinity, but they couldn't feel her gender. For example, the word sexy. Most people couldn't have any urges toward Frigga. Of course, not everyone could be as rational and objective as Chen Zhao when facing Frigg. Frigga looked at Chen Zhao, and Chen Zhao looked back at her. Both sides were scrutinizing each other. I finally understand Odin's persistence. You're his best choice, but he made a wrong choice. He's stubborn and domineering as usual. This also destroyed him. There was a hidden meaning in Frigga's words. Since she could predict the twilight of the gods, she could guess why Odin had chosen Chen Zhao. Even though she hadn't participated and had been watching the twilight of the gods from the perspective of a bystander. Chen Zhao shrugged and said casually, "At least his stubbornness prevented you from being destroyed with him." Chen Zhao really didn't think that Odin had sealed Frigga to make her shut up. Someone as smart as Frigga had obviously guessed this possibility. She didn't deny it. "Sir, can you fulfill a small wish of mine?" Frigga looked at Chen Zhao and lowered her posture, seeming sincere. A request from a god, no matter how small, isn't normal. I promised that elf girl that I'd help her find the Star of Scarlet, which is my magic item. I've given the Star of Scarlet to someone else, Chen Zhao said calmly. Chen Zhao had said that because she was his friend. If they dared to snatch it, they had to think about whether they could afford to offend her. Chapter 30:13. Frigg looked at Go-Si helplessly. Go-Si was in despair. This meant that Lila Gavich wasn't Chen Zhao's enemy. Instead, he was Chen Zhao's friend. This made sense. After all, so what if Lila Gavich was strong? Could he be stronger than this god slayer? Without Chen Zhao's permission, Lila Gavich and his Dark Elf clan wouldn't be able to stay in Los Angeles. But Lila Gavich had Chen Zhao's protection. This meant that she wouldn't have a chance to steal the Crimson Star from Lila Gavich. Of course, this was the truth. It didn't matter if Chen Zhao existed or not. Lila Gavich's individual power and Dark Elf power. Plus, he had an absolute geographical advantage. Both Go-See and the Blood Elf clan couldn't compare to him. Sir, Go-See and your friend have some misunderstanding. One of her people is a guest at your friend's house. Can you let her come back? Frigg asked. Yes, as long as she's alive. After getting the information, Chen Zhao called Lila Gavich directly. Gavich, I heard you captured a girl from the Blood Elf clan. Yes. How did you know? I made a deal with someone. Give her to me. Sure. Lila Gavich was straightforward. He didn't have any use for Rhine anyway. Unless he wanted to turn Rhine into an RBQ. Rhine was basically a single-celled organism. She was ridiculously bold. After getting used to being a captive, she accepted her current situation. In the next 2 days, she ate and slept as usual. No one came to save her. Lila Gavich didn't know what to do with Rhine either. Rhine didn't refuse to ask for information from her mouth. In the time it took to finish a meal, Lila Gavich had asked all the questions he needed. He didn't go so far as to completely eradicate her. Dark elves and blood elves weren't allies. But it wasn't to the point of fighting to the death. At most, they didn't like each other. Because they didn't have any conflicts of interest, there weren't any conflicts. Except this time, when 2 juniors jumped in front of him. He wouldn't kill them for such a small matter. Moreover, he still had a certain degree of tolerance towards his own kind. As long as it wasn't a large-scale conflict, he wouldn't kill anyone if he could. Another example was the White Elves, who were also in Los Angeles. Now that the Dark Elves were powerful, they didn't kill the White Elves. Aside from the fact that Undine, the leader of the White Elves, was his old lover, there was still some affection between them. Now that someone had claimed Rhine, it couldn't be better. Just then, Go-See suddenly knelt before him. Sir, please help me. Lend me the Star of Scarlet. Chen Zhao glanced at Go-See. I didn't kill you because of Lady Frigg, but that doesn't mean I'll help you. Plus, Lady Frigg is an ancient and powerful god. If you have any problems, you can ask her for help instead of me. In the real world, when one had enough money, there was nothing that money couldn't solve. It was the same in the spirit world. When one's power reached a certain level, there was nothing that couldn't be resolved with power. If there were more, it could only mean that he was not strong enough. For example, Lila Gavich obtained the Scarlet Star and wanted to find a way to become the Elven King. Actually, his ultimate goal was to become stronger. If he had Chen Zhao's power, it wouldn't matter whether he became the Elven King or not. Go-See glanced at Frigg, who shook her head. I know that your clan is facing a problem, but I can't do it. Oh. Lady Frigg, I'm really curious. What problem does her clan have that even you can't solve? Their clan's bloodline is about to run out. What do you mean? Are you saying that their bloodline is going to end? No, the newborn child will lose the characteristics of the clan bloodline. Do you understand? Lose the characteristics of the bloodline. Do you mean their newborns will become ordinary people? No, they'll still be elves, but elves without characteristics. This means that blood elves won't exist in the future. Why is that? The reason why there are so many elven clans is because of their ancestors. Some elven powerhouses passed on their magic or power to their descendants, and according to this bloodline inheritance, the elven clans were divided. However, this inheritance will disappear one day. No power can be passed on forever. One day, the bloodline inheritance will completely disappear, and the glory of the past will also come to an end. In other words, this isn't a natural disaster. It's the law of nature, a natural process of extinction. And it's not fatal. You could say that, but the Blood Elf clan, or anyone else, wouldn't be able to calmly accept such a situation. That's why the necessary resistance still exists. For example, the current Blood Elf clan is naturally unwilling to see their clan disappear, so they're trying to find the Crimson Star and have the most talented clansmen become powerhouses. Through this powerhouse, they can reawaken the bloodline of the clan and continue the future of the Blood Elf clan. In other words, you just have to become strong enough, right? Is that difficult? No one wanted to answer Chen Zhao. All they wanted to do was give him a look. Not for anything else, but for this super annoying sentence. Everyone wanted to become strong, but could it be done just because they wanted to? Frigga glanced at Chen Zhao. You're standing too high. You can't see the world under your feet. I can stand so high because I have enough resources under my feet, so isn't it natural to be strong? Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. Plus, both you and I have the ability to make people strong quickly. Don't tell me you can't do it. You're the Queen of Asgard. I don't believe you can't do what I can. What's the price? She can't afford it, Frigga said. We can make a normal person strong overnight, but they have to pay a corresponding price. It's different with the Scarlet Star. It's the result of their hard work. No, if it's really possible, I can pay the price. I'm not afraid of any price. Frigga shook her head. No, you don't understand. For example, let's make an agreement. I'll give you great power, but you and your clan will suffer an eternal curse. Are you sure you want this price? Chapter 30:14. Go See looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao shrugged. Do you have money? If I want to reach my goal, how much do I need? I'll give you a discount. $10 billion, Chen Zhao said calmly. Go See almost spat out blood. $10 billion. Even if she sold the entire Blood Elf clan, she wouldn't be able to gather that much money. Plus, the money she'd spent at the auction was almost the entire village's hope. Now, almost everyone in the Blood Elf clan's village was a vegetarian. If she gathered another $10 billion, the entire village would probably have to sell their kidneys. That was considered cheap. With Chen Zhao's current resources, he could build 2 or 3 more Shangqing realms. But the price was too high. Without enough returns, Chen Zhao wouldn't invest. Moreover, using resources to build a Shangqing realm expert was far less worthwhile than investing in 10 people with top talent. If one of the 10 broke through, it wouldn't be a loss. If 2 broke through, it would be a huge profit. Also, the resources invested wouldn't be as exaggerated as pushing one person to Shangqing realm. Just like Dragon Tiger Mountain and the Scarlet Church, would they not have resources? Of course they did. Compared to Chen Zhao's current resources, they had a lot more. It was more than enough for 3 or 4 people. But they didn't do that. It was because the investment wasn't proportional to the returns. Moreover, people who forced their way to Shangqing realm were at the bottom of Shangqing realm. They had no room for growth. Under normal circumstances, no organization would use resources to build a Shangqing realm expert. Go See wasn't related to him, so he couldn't put resources on her. $10 billion. In that case, Chen Zhao was really lucky. I can. The Dark Shadow clan can. Delatour shouted. By now, the invisible barrier had shrunk to less than 30 meters in diameter. Chen Zhao glanced at Delatour and the other Dark Shadow clan members. I almost forgot about the small fries. A few black balls appeared in Chen Zhao's hand. Pop, pop, instantly, all the Dark Shadow clan elves ate one. None of them survived, including Delatour. Go See was shocked by Chen Zhao's ruthlessness again. Famtis was also a little shocked. She'd been a mercenary in the past. But she'd never seen someone like Chen Zhao, who killed a few people casually. It was obvious that those people had decided to surrender. No, they should have already surrendered. However, Chen Zhao didn't accept it. Draddle was also courting death. If he didn't say anything, Chen Zhao wouldn't even bother. He heard the Latu say that the Shadow Clan could fork out $10 billion. Then he was definitely a great enemy. He had to kill him first. As for 10 billion USD, Chen Zhao felt that Delatour was really thinking too much. They were enemies first, strangers second. What made him think that he would create an enemy for $10 billion? That was why he said he was stupid. Alright, Madam Frigg, I've fulfilled my promise. Now it's your turn. I hope you won't suddenly disappear. After all, you definitely didn't come out of the seal to hide, right? I'll be there as promised. Frigg nodded and left with the dejected Go See. Goddess. What should I do? Go See looked at Frigg with a somewhat pessimistic gaze. I should thank you for being able to escape. To be honest, if I use my ability, it's not difficult to forcefully raise you to God level. But like I said before, the price is something you can't afford. Or, as that man said, use his resources to forcefully raise you to God level. The price you pay is human currency. But just like his price, you can't afford it either. Is there no way to trade with him? Use something else instead. Frigg glanced at Go See. Then tell me, what can you give him to trade with? If it's an ordinary divine artifact, it's best that you give up on this idea. He has completely plundered Odin's collection, and I'm afraid there are no less than 100 divine artifacts. So, if there's nothing special about it, he won't be able to use it. Go See felt even more despair. Even robbing a bank wouldn't be able to get that much money. $10 billion was definitely a despairing number. So there's no way at all. There's another way. What is it? In this world, there are only a few ways to become a God-level expert. Relying on one's talent to break through is undoubtedly the most powerful method, as well as the one with the most potential. The few top-notch humans in this world, including that person, all relied on their talent to break through their limits. Therefore, they are the strongest among humans, even stronger than gods. Frigg glanced at Go See. You have this talent, but you need time to fulfill it. Moreover, success or failure isn't absolute. The second method is the simplest. Using a tremendous amount of resources is also the method that man can provide. However, it's the most impossible for you to achieve, and this method will also cut off your future. The third method is the magic that I can provide to forcefully help you break through the barriers, allowing you to obtain God-level power. However, the corresponding price is also very severe. Not only you, but your family, people, and even your descendants will have to bear this price. Other than these three methods, there's a fourth method. Go See didn't interrupt and listened to Frigg's explanation. The fourth method is a secret method, or rather, a forbidden technique. In this world, there are some forbidden techniques that can break the rules. They're either cruel, complicated, or extremely risky. They can even turn you into something else, distorting your body and mind. Goddess, do you know any secret methods? Yes, but I really don't want you to choose one. I carry the hope of the Blood Elf clan. This is hope for you, but it might also be despair. I don't have a choice either. Don't be so hasty to make a decision. You can think about it for a few more days. No, I've already decided. Frigg thought about it. Next time I go to meet that person, come with me. Why do you still want to meet him? Go See was still very resentful. Out of all the secret methods, I thought of one that's suitable for you, but you need his help. If he's willing to help, your success rate will increase by at least 50%. What if I don't have his help? Infinitely close to zero. Go-see couldn't help but feel unwilling. She couldn't seem to get around that person. She was really unwilling and helpless. Chapter 30:15. The next day, Chen Zhao welcomed Frigga and Go-see. In Chen Zhao's house, Go-see was a bit reserved. "Do you want something to drink?" "Something special," Frigga said. "I hope it's something I've never had before." Just then, an underling ran over with 2 drinks. The 2 drinks were black, but they were bubbling with red and green bubbles. Is this Coke?" "More accurately, it's Hell Coke," Chen Zhao said. "Try it. It's helpful for people with magic power. It's fine even if you don't have magic power. My family and I often drink it." Before Frigga even drank it, she'd already analyzed how to make this so-called Hell Coke. Interesting concept. Frigga took a sip and her eyes lit up. "It's indeed refreshing. Go-see, try it too." "Oh. Thank you." Go-see was a bit distracted. Even though the Hell Coke was delicious, she wasn't in the mood to taste it. Chen Zhao glanced at Frigga. "Why did she come with you? Please do me, or rather, do her a favor." "Is this a request or a deal?" Chen Zhao asked. If it was a deal, Chen Zhao didn't mind helping Frigga if she gave him something. If it was a request, then he could only apologize. He didn't have any relationship with Frigga at the moment. "It's a deal," Frigga said. "You know Vanaheim, right? If you help me, Vanaheim will be yours." "What?" Chen Zhao was a bit surprised. Using a world as a bargaining chip. This deal shouldn't be simple. No, it definitely wasn't simple. She will use a secret technique called stealing. When the time comes, she will summon an extremely powerful existence. As the target of the stealing, your mission is to suppress this extremely powerful existence and not kill it. Give me an accurate idea of how powerful it is. Using a world as a bargaining chip, Chen Zhao believed that Frigga's secret technique wouldn't be simple. "It's like Odin at his peak," Frigga said. "Powerful existence. Odin at his peak. You're not thinking of reviving Odin, right?" Frigga shook her head. "Simply put, it's Zeus, the god that popped out of your head. Are you familiar with the Olympian gods? You can summon Zeus just like that. From an enemy's perspective, it's indeed familiar." Frigga looked at Chen Zhao and then at the frightened Go-see. "Enemy? Are you enemies with the Olympian gods? Do you know anything about the Olympians?" "I have a certain understanding. The Olympian god of war, Ares, is still my captive." Go-see was speechless. What kind of people were these? He casually captured a war god as a captive. "You had a war?" Chen Zhao asked curiously. "Didn't Ares or my son Bader tell you?" Chen Zhao shook his head. "They're thieves and robbers," Frigga said. "They stole the power of the divine kingdom and turned it into their own, so I sealed them. Other than a few who escaped, all the gods on Mount Olympus were sealed by me." Chen Zhao gasped. Frigga was the queen of Asgard, but she was just a queen. She'd actually sealed an entire race of gods by herself. The price was the complete extinction of the Vanir race. "I was tricked by Odin and used the entire Vanir race as a sacrifice to seal the Olympian gods." Chen Zhao raised Frigga's danger index by 100 points. If she could seal an entire race, she could definitely seal Chen Zhao too. Frigga obviously felt the change in Chen Zhao's gaze. She smiled and didn't explain further. "How is it? Do you accept the entire condition? What's Vanir like now?" Chen Zhao needed to evaluate whether the entire Vanir world was valuable. Just as Frigga had said, she'd used the sacrifice of the Vanir race to seal the Olympian gods. Vanir was probably abandoned now, right? Vanir is a world full of vitality. That world gave birth to our race. Although the gods have fallen, it still has the ability to give birth to new gods. I haven't been to Vanir for thousands of years, so I don't know the exact situation there. But if Odin didn't destroy Vanir, then it's very likely that a young god has been born there. You have the right to become the divine king there. Even if you call yourself the god of creation, no one will oppose it. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. He didn't need a divine king or a god of creation. What era was this? Why were they still so superstitious? However, Chen Zhao was still interested in the Vanir that Frigga spoke of. When I passed by Alfheim last time, it was also full of vitality, but your son Bader still refused to let me come into contact with that world. The reason was that I would destroy the peace there. The intelligent race in Alfheim are the elves, a race that believes in him. There are no intelligent races in Vanir, so the only intelligent ones are the newborn young gods. If you become the ruler there, even if the young gods oppose it, the war between you and them probably won't even be considered a war. Oh, what's the difference between the elves of Alfheim and them? Most of the elves in Alfheim are pure elves, the kind that Go See is afraid of becoming. They're very ordinary but also very pure. Of course, they're also very kind, so kind that even I can't bear to hurt them. As for the elves in this world, they're the exact opposite. They're no longer pure and kind. Frigga looked at Chen Zhao. Do you accept this deal? Since you're willing to use a world as a bargaining chip, you can make other requests. For example, you want me to use resources to make her a strong person, instead of just letting me be a high-level fighter. Go See is very talented. She has the right to a better future. She's indeed very talented. She can wait until the foreseeable future and use her talent to fulfill her abilities instead of spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm. Your secret method didn't give her a better future. Her people don't have time to wait. Their bloodline deteriorates very quickly. In a few years, they'll completely turn into ordinary and pure elves. Didn't you say that this only appears in newborns? Who do you think gave birth to the newborns? Of course, their parents' bloodline deteriorates first and then it's passed on to the newborns. Fine, this is your and hers decision. The deal is done. Before that, you haven't forgotten your job, right? Of course. I can start lessons anytime. Where's your daughter? Still in kindergarten. You can teach my little daughter first. I remember that your eldest daughter is only 2. Where's your youngest daughter? Has she awakened? Chapter 30:16. My daughter is 1 year old. She's still too young. Are you sure she's awakened? She awakened on the day she was born. Both Go See and Frigga were speechless. The difference between people was always so obvious. Awakened on the day she was born. There was such a thing. How talented must one be to have such an awakening? Frigga had only planned to be little Gerlin's teacher. As for little Larissa, she was just an extra. When little Larissa grew up, she would teach her a few spells. But she didn't expect little Larissa's talent to be so incredible. Frigga was very sure that no one had awakened on the day they were born, even among the Protoss. It was hard to imagine how ridiculous little Larissa's talent was. Let me see that child. Little Larissa was currently being led by Portia and Zephyra. She was playing on the field outside. When Frigga saw little Larissa, she felt like her eyes were going to be blinded by this blessed girl. As the Nirvana witch, little Gerlin was already a heaven-defying existence. A witch of destruction had appeared every few generations. This was enough to show how talented little Gerlin was. Little Larissa wasn't that special. Apart from being talented, there was nothing special about her. But sometimes, when one's talent reached a certain level, they could really do whatever they wanted. Even Go-See felt jealous from the inside out when she saw little Larissa. If she had this talent, her clan probably wouldn't have to worry about continuing the Blood Elf bloodline. Being favored by the heavens wasn't enough to describe little Larissa's talent. Frigga didn't doubt that this child's future limit wouldn't be lower than hers. As for higher levels, it would depend on Chen Zhao's abilities. "Darling, what's your name?" Frigga asked in her softest tone. Little Larissa looked at the gentle and beautiful auntie before her. But she still turned her head to look at her father. Chen Zhao nodded. Little Larissa immediately smiled brightly. "I'm Larissa. What spells do you know?" "Like this." Frigga reached out and revealed a small fireball. Little Larissa doesn't know. "Papa didn't teach me." Frigga turned to look at him in surprise. "You didn't teach her magic." In Frigga's opinion, Chen Zhao should have exposed little Larissa to magic long ago. Even if Chen Zhao didn't know how to teach, with Larissa's talent, she would probably learn it after watching a few times. "I've heard that being exposed to magic at a young age will affect your growth." Frigg stared at Chen Zhao with a dark expression. "Who told me to kill him? Isn't that the case? Do you plan to let your daughter learn dark magic, necromancy, or sacrificial magic?" "No. Don't tell me you plan to let her learn these spells. As long as you don't let her learn these spells, it won't affect her growth. It's just like some of your human sports programs. Some programs can help children grow better, while others will affect their physical and mental development." Chen Zhao thought about it and realized that it made sense. "Papa, can I learn magic?" Although little Larissa was only 1 year old, she knew how to do magic. But in the whole family, except for Mama and Big Sister, everyone else knew magic. So little Larissa was already used to magic. "Sure." Chen Zhao nodded. "Yay!" Little Larissa was so happy that she danced and kept throwing fireballs out of her palms. "Huh? I thought you didn't know." Frigga asked, confused. "Yeah, but Papa agreed, so I know." Go-See was hurt again. She'd been known as a genius among geniuses since she was young. So, she couldn't help but compare herself to little Larissa. But what made her despair was that even though she was a genius among geniuses, she was no different from a stupid pig in little Larissa's eyes. "What else can you do?" Soon, Frigga realized that little Larissa knew a lot of spells. She'd learned them all from the people around her. She knew a little bit of all kinds of random spells. She didn't have any systematic learning, so she didn't have any system she was good at. Even Chen Zhao was a little scared. Little Larissa had unknowingly learned so many spells. This was also because the family didn't have any taboos. So, they didn't avoid little Larissa from casting spells. They also didn't expect little Larissa's talent to be so terrifying. Basically, she could learn most spells after seeing them once. Little Larissa had learned them, but she'd never used them. She knew that Chen Zhao wouldn't let her learn them. So, she didn't dare to use them. She was afraid that Chen Zhao would think she was a bad kid. Until today, when Chen Zhao personally agreed. She dared to use them. Frigga and Go-See couldn't describe their shock. In Frigga's life, she'd seen countless geniuses who could always create all kinds of miracles. But compared to little Larissa, those geniuses and miracles seemed so dim. Soon, little Gerlin returned. Frigga had seen little Gerlin before. She was also a genius among geniuses. She wasn't a genius who bragged about herself like Go-See. Awakening before 2 years old meant that she was in the top 3 awakening ages among magicians. Plus, little Jerlin was the third knight. Plus, she was the Witch of Destruction. This gave her talent that wasn't below little Larissa's. Go-See even felt inferior. She was a so-called genius, but she was only the second knight. When she'd awakened at 8, she'd been quite proud. But compared to this pair of sisters, in that case, he would seem insignificant. Today, Frigga didn't teach little Jerlin and Larissa magic. She mainly wanted to see their talent. Then, she'd come up with a teaching plan for them. But when she took a look, she almost shut herself up. The sisters' talent made even her, the god of magic, jealous. As for Go-See, she really shut herself out. What was the point of learning magic? What was the point of training? No matter how well she practiced, could she be as talented as Qin Zhao? Could she have a good father like Qin Zhao? In the past, Go-See didn't believe that all roads led to Rome. Now, she believed it. But some people were born in Rome. On the way back, Frigga glanced at the despondent Go-See. What, you're shocked? Yes. Go-See didn't deny it. A pained expression hung on her face. Then I'll tell you something that can make you happy. What else can make me happy? Even though your talent is different from Asgard, your upper limit is the same. The only difference is that one took 10 years and the other 100. Chapter 30:17. Frigga was just comforting her. But Go-See felt that she couldn't be happy. Limit. Not many people in the world could touch it. Most people would be stuck halfway through their leveling. Also, how many people could actually get stronger as they got older? When a normal cultivator reached a certain age, all aspects would start to decline severely. Only a few old monsters could do it. The older they got, the stronger they got. So, Go-See didn't have any hope of reaching the limit in 100 years. Little Jerlin and little Larissa would reach their limit in 10 years, no, 20 years, to be exact. They'd only be in their early 20s. That was the best age. But how long would Go-See need? 100 years. At her current age. 120 years. Would he be able to live for that long? Even if she could, she'd probably be in a decline. Xiaohe and Carrie had already passed the trial that Qin Zhao had left for them. But it wasn't the end of their suffering. It was just the beginning. The difficulty wasn't up to Qin Zhao's will. It was up to him to strengthen or weaken it. So, for Xiaohe and Carrie, it was far from passing. They'd gone from the initial resistance to numbness, and now they were used to it. Just like the saying, when you can't fight back, every night, Qin Zhao would have someone from the supernatural organization come and watch them. They didn't want to die in the trial. This wasn't the Tower of Trials where they could revive on the spot. That was Qin Zhao's ability. If they died, they would really die. Actually, they'd been trapped in the trial for almost a month. Apart from not being able to move freely, it didn't affect their daily lives. They could even go online. Moreover, they'd even called the police in the first few days. They hoped that the police could save them. Clearly, they'd overestimated the LAPD. The police walked around the community and said that they'd sue them for making a false alarm. Now, they'd learned their lesson and stopped resisting. There was no point in resisting. Qin Zhao had only taught them one thing during this time. The fist was the root of everything. Right now, they had to risk their lives just to survive in this trial ground. It was unrealistic to fight Qin Zhao head-on. After an arduous night of fighting, Carrie and Xiaohe dragged their weary bodies home. Xiaohe, help me prepare breakfast. I don't want to move anymore. Carrie felt as though her body was about to fall apart. He slumped on the sofa like a corpse. She turned on the television, but she was too lazy to even lift her eyelids. The television was broadcasting the news. Suddenly, Carrie seemed to hear something. She jumped up and stared at the television screen with wide eyes. Xiao-He, come quickly. Xiao-He walked out slowly, holding a glass of milk. What is it? Look at the news. According to the European police, a group of people who call themselves the New Era have recently appeared. They claim that myths will descend upon the world again. They will restart the ritual and find the gods of the past. They are also requesting the government to recognize their legitimacy. However, at present, all the countries in Europe have identified the New Era as a cult and have put several leaders of the organization on the wanted list. They are the leader, Arona, the deputy leader, Bayan, and the guardian elder. Xiao-He looked at the news listlessly and asked, "What's wrong? What does this cult have to do with you?" "My vice sect master, Bayan, used to be a hoodlum on our street." "So what? It's not surprising that someone like him started a cult. But he used to be an ordinary person. Maybe he's a liar, or maybe you didn't see through him," Xiao-He said disapprovingly. "I thought you had something to make such a fuss about." Actually, when Carrie said that they knew each other, it was more than just knowing each other. Bayan was her adoptive father, and she had learned all her thieving skills from him. As for whether Bayan really knew magic, she would never believe it. She knew Bayan too well. When Bayan was young, he was a successful entrepreneur. He had adopted Carrie when she was 10 years old. However, in less than a year, Bayan suddenly went bankrupt. Because Bayan could no longer provide Carrie with the money she needed. So, Carrie returned to the orphanage. However, the connection between Carrie and Bayan was not broken. Then, he began to mingle in the streets. If he had any magic skills at that time, he would not have to steal to earn some money and buy some insignificant gifts for Carrie. Thinking back to the last time they met, it was already half a year ago. Because Bayan committed theft and was sentenced to half a year in prison. But Carrie did not expect to see Bayan again on the TV news. And he had actually become a high-ranking member of a cult. Carrie could not help but worry about her adoptive father. Bayan might not be rich, but he was definitely a responsible father. At least in Carrie's eyes, Bayan was worthy of her calling him father. Seeing this news, Carrie could not help but worry about Bayan. All the tiredness and sleepiness disappeared at this moment. There was only worry for Bayan. "What's your relationship with that deputy leader, Bayan?" Xiao-He noticed the change in Carrie's expression. "I know him, but I'm not familiar with him," Carrie replied casually. This answer could protect herself and Bayan. It was not that she did not trust Xiao-He. It was that Carrie had been in the streets since she was a child. She knew that some bad thing started from an unintentional slip of the tongue. Carrie was in a dilemma. On one hand, she could not even protect herself. She could not even control her own freedom. Moreover, she had to save that unreliable adoptive father. But she couldn't just ignore it. "If you really have a problem, you can call Mr. Chin." Actually, Xiao-He had already thought through some problems recently. Chen Zhao seemed to be torturing them. In fact, he was training them. Although they were living a life of ecstasy here, the increase in their strength was real. Only Carrie was still in the dark about it. Or rather, it was the difference in Eastern and Western thinking. Carrie could only feel Chen Zhao's evil intentions. What's the use of finding him? Carrie did not want to contact Chen Zhao. At least, we need his permission to leave here. Carrie was like a deflated balloon. Yes, without Chen Zhao's permission, they could not even leave here. Or we have the ability to completely clear this place. We don't even know the upper limit of the difficulty. How do we clear it? Chapter 30:18. Chen, I'm going back to Europe. 23rd Blood Mary came to bid Chen Zhao farewell. Really? So soon? Chen Zhao had thought that 23rd Blood Mary would need more time. He didn't expect her to go back so soon. Yes, it's chaotic in Europe. A few groups have realized the arrival of the spiritual Qi tide. They're eager to open up the spiritual world. Chen Zhao remained silent. Everyone had their own thoughts. Chen Zhao was the type that didn't support or object. However, Chen Zhao's job was to kill this idea in the cradle. After all, most people and the government didn't need a new era. They needed to maintain the current state. How's the progress with your divine kingdom? It's completed. Now there are just some details to deal with. A smile appeared on 23rd Blood Mary's face. Her trip to Los Angeles had come to a successful end. From now on, she didn't need to worry about her lifespan anymore. She'd solved the biggest crisis. Now, she was a god. A true god. Do you want to try my divine kingdom? Sure. A patch of grayish-white suddenly spread across the sky. As the grayish-white spread, the environment around Chen Zhao and 23rd Blood Mary also changed. As the grayish-white formed a circle, Chen Zhao's senses completely lost contact with the outside world. There were only snow-covered mountains and piercingly cold winds. Is this your divine kingdom? Suddenly, Chen Zhao felt the air become extremely heavy. 23rd Blood Mary's divine power was air. She could change the weight of the air. At the same time, she could control the temperature and humidity. How can your divine kingdom attack? If it's just what I feel now, it probably won't pose any threat to me. Chen Zhao wasn't being arrogant. He was just stating a fact. The change in the environment only caused some trouble for Chen Zhao. It didn't even affect Chen Zhao's combat ability. I can increase the weight of the air to an unimaginable level, so the other materials in the divine kingdom will rise and then fall. It's similar to your meteorite. Chen Zhao's eyes brightened. This is amazing, he said sincerely. I know this isn't enough for you. Chen Zhao shrugged. It couldn't be helped. They were a whole realm apart now. He could only say that it wouldn't be easy for him to win against the 23rd Blood Mary. But it was impossible to lose. Chen Zhao stood still. Even the 23rd Blood Mary might not be able to bite him. Chen Zhao was an enhancer. His physical strength and defense had reached the extreme. This was Chen Zhao's greatest advantage. In order to defeat Chen Zhao, he first had to break through his defense. After that, he would need more power to deal damage to Chen Zhao. But that in itself was impossible. How big is your divine kingdom? About the same size as California. That big? Chen Zhao gasped. Because I don't lack materials. Chen Zhao was speechless. Yes, the 23rd Blood Mary had collected so many fragments of the divine kingdom. There was no need to worry about not having enough materials. She could build as big a divine kingdom as she wanted. Chen Zhao and the 23rd Blood Mary were just testing the waters. Then, the 23rd Blood Mary withdrew her divine kingdom. I should go. Goodbye. In fact, considering their current strength and status, it was impossible for them to do so. It didn't matter if they left Los Angeles. After all, there were too many ways to meet in this era. Even if there was something important, he could reach them with a phone call. After the 23rd Blood Mary left, Chen Zhao went to the underground base where Ares was locked up. Ares wasn't in a good state of mind recently. He looked up at Chen Zhao, who had just walked in. You haven't come to see me in a long time. You don't look like you're in a good state. My divine kingdom has been destroyed by you. My body has suffered great damage and my power has been sealed. Now, I'm so weak that I'm about to die. If you want to kill me, do it as soon as possible. That way, you'll be able to add more color to your battle record. I don't want to die quietly in this dark corner. This was probably Ares' last bit of stubbornness. It was also to preserve his last bit of dignity. Chen Zhao passed a contract to Ares. Take a look. If there's no problem, sign it. The 23rd Blood Mary, Zhang Tianyi, and Bifla had helped Chen Zhao make this contract. Ares scrutinized the contents of the contract. You want me to serve you for 300 years? Yes. I don't have that much time. My divine kingdom has been destroyed and I'm losing control of my power. Soon, I'll completely collapse. Didn't you read the terms? While you're serving me, I'm obligated to treat any injuries you have, any injuries that are within my capabilities. The damage caused by the destruction of the divine kingdom is irreversible unless it's repaired. Chen Zhao took out a metal box and tossed it to Ares. Is this enough? Ares opened the box. Inside were some fragments of the divine kingdom. Where did you get it? That's not something you should be concerned about. Ares decisively signed his name on the contract. Then the contract was ignited. Chen Zhao brought Ares out of the prison. I thought it would be difficult, or even impossible. No one wants to die, Ares said matter-of-factly. Even God doesn't want to die. You're stronger than me, so I can accept submitting to you. Do you need me to arrange an identity for you? No need. I'll find an identity that I like. Chen Zhao nodded. He'd recruited Ares mainly because he needed him in times of need. Times were different now. Chen Zhao didn't plan on ruling the world. But Chen Zhao needed more trump cards. What could he do by relying on himself? Chen Zhao couldn't do everything himself. Some things had to be done by others. The identity of Ares was still very valuable. After all, a living god was more valuable than a dead one. He had collected a lot of dead gods. He didn't care if he didn't have Ares or Ares. Recently, there were more and more supernatural incidents on the news. Even though the supernatural organization suppressed most of the news, there were still some that slipped through the net. Of course, there wasn't really strong evidence to prove the existence of supernatural incidents. After all, the supernatural organization mainly suppressed news like this with direct evidence. Some spiritualists also purposely exposed themselves to ordinary people. As such incidents became more and more frequent, Chen Zhao believed that the government wouldn't be able to hide it for long. The true Great Era wasn't far away. Chapter 30:19. Chen Zhao's phone rang. It was Xiao He. Chen Zhao picked it up. Mr. Chen, we want to talk to you. Talk about what? Can you come to our place? Just say it over the phone, Chen Zhao said impatiently. I'm busy. No. Actually, we feel that we've grown stronger recently, so we want to spar with you. Oh. Chen Zhao chuckled strangely. Sure, I'll go tonight. Xiao He nodded at Carrie beside her. He agreed, but the next part is the most troublesome. Don't worry. Even if we can't win, we can at least surprise him. It was late at night. A blue sports car drove into the neighborhood. Boom, 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 Chen Zhao got out of the car and looked at the wrecked car. Chen Zhao realized that his entire series of sports cars was really full of misfortune. Right now, Xiao He and Carrie were lying in the distance in their combat suits, watching the situation with binoculars. It looks like the first trap was useless. He's not injured at all from such a violent explosion. What's his body made of? This is the mentality of weaklings like us and the necessary qualities of the strong. If he could get injured from such a trap, he would have died hundreds of times already, Xiao said. Then why fight? Just surrender. We can't surrender. That trap was just the appetizer. There's more to come. Xiao Wu also squatted beside Carrie. Chen Zhao didn't care about Carrie and Xiao He's suicidal behavior. He was unperturbed. It had nothing to do with him anyway. They could do whatever they wanted. It had nothing to do with him. Their current plot was probably echoing in other people's ears. In fact, Chen Zhao knew where Xiao He and Carrie were. However, he didn't hear their conversation. The two little guys were pretty smart. They knew how to seal off the area around them with magic and put them in an enclosed area. It was hard for the outside world to sense their existence. If it wasn't for the little world, he would probably be tricked by them. Chen Zhao walked toward where the two were. Suddenly, there was nothing under his feet. Chen Zhao had fallen into the trap. The next moment, the magic in the trap was activated. White light suddenly flashed in the trap. Then Chen Zhao felt his body being sealed by a force. Anti-magic field. No, it's not the anti-magic domain. Just as he was about to activate it, he felt that the trap was draining his magic power. What followed was a violent explosion. Success! Xiao He couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. You succeeded. It's a success. That trap will form an anti-magic domain for a short period of time. If he uses his mana in that area, his mana will be instantly sucked away, supplying the powerful rootless fire in the trap. Then, Bua, Xiao He explained proudly. Are you sure? Definitely. But, he seems to have escaped from the trap, and he looks completely fine. How is this possible? Xiao He picked up the binoculars and saw that Chen Zhao was indeed unscathed. Her expression immediately darkened. How is it possible? That was such a violent explosion. Why isn't he injured at all? Chen Zhao actually gave this trap a very high score. Other than not harming him, this trap had already played its role. At least, as a trap, it was quite good at being unexpected. Chen Zhao continued forward. Just then, rotten arms crawled out of the ground and gripped Chen Zhao's legs tightly. Necromancy. Chen Zhao was somewhat surprised. This wasn't Carrie's spell. Xiao He knew necromancy. Although it wasn't called necromancy in the East, there wasn't much difference in essence. Chen Zhao wasn't in a hurry to break free. There had to be something else. As expected, dozens of flickering, unstable spirits suddenly charged at him. Boom, 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 the continuous impact of the explosions almost blasted the scene into pieces. The terrain had also changed. It was clear how powerful the explosions were. Wow! Xiao He shouted in excitement. Then she looked through the binoculars and realized that Chen Zhao had walked out of the explosion unscathed again. How is this possible? Even this didn't hurt him. Xiao He's good mood came and went quickly. I have no choice but to activate the ultimate trap. Gritting her teeth, Xiao He took out a remote control. Yes, her last trap was activated with a remote control. It was also very easy to activate. Boom, 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 a series of explosions rang out. In the midst of the explosions, fire sprinklers sprayed toward the central area. Then, electric arcs spread toward the central area. I don't believe he can come out unscathed from such an explosion. What did you do? How can you create such a powerful explosion? Carrie's face was filled with shock and disbelief. It's simple. I blew up the gas pipe, Xiao He said. Xiao He said, I have also built a simple discharge field. I have already buried the electric cables, and the water sprayed out by the sprinklers is the conductor. I feel like you want to kill him. Think carefully before you answer. Just then, Chen Zhao's voice rang out in their crimson. Why are you here? He was dumbfounded. Carrie was also shocked by Chen Zhao's sudden appearance. He was unscathed again. He was in complete despair this time. Magic and technology combined, but Chen Zhao's skin wasn't even scratched. Moreover, he had suddenly appeared in their crimson like a ghost. There's such a heavy smell of gas in the air. Do you think my nose is just for show? Xiaohe's face was full of disappointment. Okay, tell me what you wanted to do. Mr. Chen, we actually wanted to test our strength, Xiaohe hurriedly explained. We already knew that this trap is useless against you. Apart from being a little weak, everything else is surprising. Mr. Chen, how do you rate our performance? 5. Only 5. Mr. Chen, didn't you say that our trap was surprising? Yes, but in the end, as your target, I'm unscathed. A trap can't hurt anyone, so what's the point? Okay, let's talk business. You didn't call me here just to tease me, Chen Zhao said. Of course, I hope you can find a good reason. Mr. Chen, we actually have something important to do and need to leave for a while. What is it? Chapter 30-20. Expressionlessly, Chen Zhao looked at Xiaohe and Carrie. The two girls were so nervous that they were about to explode. After a moment of silence, Chen Zhao asked, What is it? It's like this. Carrie has an adoptive father. Wait. She has an adoptive father. Chen Zhao remembered that Qingping Sage had said that Carrie didn't have any relatives in her investigation. She'd grown up in an orphanage. Chen Zhao looked at Carrie seriously. Tell me the truth. You have an adoptive father. Yes, but not really. When I was in the orphanage, I was adopted by him. Later, he went bankrupt, so I was sent back to the orphanage. But I've always kept in touch with him. And then, recently, I realized that he's in trouble. Carrie wasn't sure either. It wasn't trouble. But she still felt that being with a cult would be troublesome even if it wasn't. What kind of trouble? I'm not sure. I think he joined a cult. It's useless. Cultists are all crazy. Your adoptive father's been brainwashed. I suggest you kill him to prevent him from harming society. Chen Zhao didn't feel bad at all. If you tell me about that cult, I can help you get rid of it while I'm at it. How could Carrie agree? In her eyes, Chen Zhao was really cold-blooded. If he knew about her adoptive father might really be killed by Chen Zhao. Mr. Chen, give me a few days. I promise I'll come back after it's done. Carrie looked at Chen Zhao sincerely. How can you promise? Seeing that pretending to be pitiful was useless, Carrie gritted her teeth and thought. A moment later, Carrie looked up and said, I'll sign a contract with you. Chen Zhao's lips curled into a smile. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. I agree to your request. Chen Zhao finally relented. Soon, Chen Zhao drew up a contract. In the contract, Carrie had to come back within 15 days. Otherwise, the contract would be triggered automatically. Chen Zhao could lock onto Carrie immediately. If she came back within the time limit, she would listen to any of Chen Zhao's arrangements for the next 3 years. But if she didn't come back within the time limit, she would be enslaved by Chen Zhao for 10 years. Carrie had no choice but to sign the contract. She had planned to bargain with Chen Zhao for a while, but Chen Zhao was right. But reality did not go as he wished. Chen Zhao had the attitude of, if you want to sign it, then sign it. If you don't, then forget it. Although Carrie gritted her teeth in anger, she still signed the contract in the end. Of course, she also made a small request. He also wanted to be her helper and gain temporary freedom. After completing the contract, Zhao lifted the restriction on entering and leaving the community. Alright, you can come and go now. Remember, the two of you only have 15 days of free time. If you don't come back by yourselves within 15 days, I will personally go and find you. Both of them felt the same way. They all knew that Zhao wasn't joking. Just as Zhao was about to leave, Carrie suddenly stopped him. Mr. Chen, any other questions? Can you lend us some money to fund our activities? According to the bank interest, how much do you want? How much can you borrow? Zhao chuckled. How much did Carrie look down on him by asking this question? I can borrow as much as you dare. $100,000. Carrie asked tentatively. Even he could not help but roll her eyes. How much did Carrie look down on Zhao? He did not know how much money Zhao had. But she was sure that it would be an astronomical number. This is a check for $1 million. It's also an advance on your salary for the next 10 years. Wait. I didn't plan on asking for $1 million. That's too much. Also, according to the contract, we have to be enslaved by you for 10 years if we don't come back in 15 days. It hasn't even started yet. No, I have a feeling that you won't come back in 15 days. Take it. It's better than nothing. When Carrie received the check for $1 million, she did not know what she was feeling right now. It was clearly an unprecedented amount of money. But why could she not be happy? Carrie, what do we do now? What's your plan? Cash this check first. He was silent for a while. Good idea. She had never seen so much money before. She did not even have 1,000,000 yuan, much less $1 million. The next day, they did not sleep at all. With such a huge sum of money, they had forgotten the purpose of borrowing it. Their minds were filled with how to spend the money. Yes. That's right. They had almost forgotten their original intentions. Now, they just wanted to have some fun. Early in the morning, they ran to the bank to cash the check. With the bank's credit card, they really felt like they were on cloud 9. Then, they went on a shopping spree for the whole day. The two of them didn't come to their senses until they finished spending at the high-end restaurant. Carrie, what did we do today? He said, covering her face. We wasted the whole day. Carrie's expression was also terrible. Don't worry. We still have plenty of time. Then, the next day, they went on a shopping spree again. That night, Carrie roared, that guy did it on purpose. He purposely gave us so much money to make us fall. He's a demon. He felt the same way. She knew that they had something important to do and that they did not have much time left. However, they could not help it. Since breakfast, they had been lost in the dream of being rich. Carrie, we can't go on like this. We need to act quickly. After we bring your adoptive father back, we still have time to play. Just not now. All right, I understand. Carrie nodded heavily. On the third day, they were defeated by the demon of desire again. They fell into depravity once more, sinking into the pleasure of shopping. On the third night, they repented once more and firmly decided that they had to do something important the next day. On the fourth day, they finally overcame all the difficulties. However, it was not really difficult. Carrie, where are we going now? To buy-in, my adoptive father's house. Why are we going there? Can't you give him a call? Let him come back on his own. If I could, I would just call him at home instead of asking him to let us out. All right. Why are we going to your adoptive father's house? He should be in Europe, right? Chapter 30-21. I don't have his contact number, but we agreed that if he's not at home and I can't contact him, I can go to his house and find him. He'll leave some contact numbers. Are you sure your adoptive father's just a bankrupt thief? Not some kind of spy or something? It's not as complicated as you think. He just has a lot of enemies and creditors, so he's always prepared to run. Okay, that's a good reason. After wasting 4 days, Carrie finally got into the swing of things. On the same day, they bought a flight to Switzerland. President, do you have time now? Come to the headquarters. Sure, I'll go now. After arriving at the headquarters, West tossed a document to Chen Zhao. The National Youth Supernatural Fighting Competition. Chen Zhao flipped through a few pages and put it down silently. He held his forehead. Is the government joking? No, it's serious. It's in Los Angeles and hosted by the Supernatural Organization. I'm sure now that the government is joking. Chen Zhao wasn't interested at all. Very uninterested. A competition for a group of youths. The supernatural world in North America wasn't active to begin with. Those who could participate had to be awakened first. This was already a part of it. Then there was an age restriction. Since they were youths, they couldn't be very old. How many awakened youths could there be in America? Therefore, it was destined to be a battle between a few families with a certain amount of heritage. Actually, there were similar competitions for youths in other major regions. Whether it was Huaxia, Japan, or Europe, they all had similar competitions. However, the most important thing to hold a competition like this was that there had to be enough active supernatural areas. In such active areas, family inheritance had certain advantages, but each power and individual would have their own opportunities too. There were many participants, but no one could guarantee victory. But what about the Americans? When the tiger was gone, the monkey was king. Actually, the Supernatural Organization was the monkey king. The Supernatural Organization was only average in the entire world. But in North America, they were the top supernatural organization. There weren't many people in the first place. Now, they were choosing the champion among them. It felt like the champion was already decided. There's no other way. West shrugged. Now that the government has also noticed the spirit energy tide, they want to make use of it to reserve talents in the supernatural field. The government has also realized this problem, so they have set the age limit of the competition at 22 years old. This way, there will be a lot more people participating. A 22-year-old is still considered a teenager? Isn't it better to just call it a youth tournament? There's nothing we can do about it. If we really wanted to have a youth competition, the number of participants would definitely not be enough. In fact, it's just a youth competition in the name of youth. Must you do it? We are funded by the government, so we still have to do the tasks assigned by the government. All right then, you make your own arrangements. This has nothing to do with me. Our people won't get involved, right? Our men are not involved. How could West arrange his own people? Right now, they were walking the path of the elite. They had a lot of resources and rich combat experience. The younger generation of ordinary clans really couldn't compare. Therefore, if their children were to participate, it was very likely that they would break out of the encirclement. Especially Jolanash, Helis, and more. They were all typical representatives. There was also Chen Zhao's student, Lit Grove. He wasn't a captain, but he was at least an official member. Now that he was in Angelite's team, his performance was quite different. Basically, this competition was to find talents for the government. How could they give their people to the government for free? Even West had the mentality of just dealing with the matter. How could they really give their own people away? Who's paying for this competition? Chen Zhao suddenly asked. The government special department earmarks. Will the psionic team participate too? Probably. For them, this is a chance to accumulate experience. They also want the government to see their results. The supernatural organization didn't care about the opportunity to gain combat experience because they had plenty of opportunities to do so. Moreover, it wasn't in the ring, but on a real battlefield. But other forces might not have this chance. Whatever. If they want to participate, then let them. Chen Zhao shook his head. They had never been a match for the supernatural organization. The organization had always treated them as targets. Just then, Ruan Faxben ran in. President, Mr. West, I hope I'm not disturbing you. You're already in, West said, annoyed. Are you looking for me or the president? I'm looking for the president. I found a young man recently. I think he's talented and he's in right now. President, how about you come with me? Go find a disciple yourself. Why should I go with him? Do you want me to beat him up? If that's the case, I'm happy to help. Not really, as long as he doesn't ask for something as ridiculous as that guy last time. But if he needs to show off his strength, then give him a heavy blow. Chen Zhao finally understood. He wanted him to go with him and scare him when necessary. I'm free too, West said. Let's go together. Ruan Faxben shrugged. It didn't matter if it was 2 or 3. Along the way, Ruan Faxben told Chen Zhao about the kid he liked. 14. His parents aren't very rich. They're both ordinary people. His father is a firefighter and his mother is unemployed. Then how did he learn alchemy? Chen Zhao asked. He already has a master. Unlike other spiritualists, alchemists had to have a master to teach them even if they were awakened. It's an alchemy book I left behind. In fact, a few years ago, when he was awakened, I secretly left him an alchemy book. I've also been observing him secretly. If he shows talent in alchemy, I'll get in touch with him. Isn't the chance too low? If you do the same thing a few times, you'll eventually meet someone with talent. How many awakened kids did you find? Not many, just 100 or so, Ruan Faxben said. Chen Zhao was speechless. West was speechless. How did you find so many awakened kids? I feel like the supernatural organization hasn't dealt with as many awakened cases in the past 2 years as you did, and they're all kids. It's simple. I've created a magical device that can detect the abnormal spiritual waves on ordinary people. The spiritual waves produced by ordinary people either come into contact with a spiritualist or they've awakened. With a little analysis, we'll be able to determine if they've awakened. Chapter 30-22. The three sat in the car and looked at the boy in the alley. The boy was wearing a hoodie, as if trying to hide his appearance. However, the hoodie couldn't hide his young face. There were 2 adults before the boy. They were whispering something, as if they were making some kind of deal. This kind of scene was very common in America. Not often. Most of the time, it was adults selling forbidden items to minors. But right now, the roles seemed to be reversed. The boy was the seller, while the 2 adults were the buyers. The 2 seemed to be bargaining. The situation fell into a stalemate. After 10 minutes, both sides finally took a step back and the deal continued. The 2 adults left contentedly. Before leaving, they specially glanced at Chen Zhao, West, and Ruan Fazabin in the car. Clearly, they discovered the three. However, they only treated the three as buyers like them. The boy also discovered the three in the car. Of course, this was because the three didn't hide at all. Instead, they purposely leaked some magical aura. The boy wasn't afraid. Instead, he walked to the car. "You're here to buy things too, right? What good stuff do you have here?" Ruan Fazabin asked. The boy took out 3 rings. "I made these myself. You can see the quality." The 3 each picked up a ring. Chen Zhao and West could only tell the good from the bad. In their eyes, these things were even worse than the things in the recycling warehouse. Usually, Ruan Fazabin's magic tools would fail occasionally. Or when the members of the association broke them, they would throw them into the warehouse, waiting to be broken down and recycled. As for the ring the boy took out, it was of an even lower quality than those recycled goods. From the material to the craftsmanship, to the effects. Every single one of them was proof of the taste of inferior goods. On the other hand, Ruan Faxi obviously saw more things. The quality of the magic rings themselves was very low. However, this was a product limited by the boy's current magic power, magic level, knowledge, and materials. He'd done the best he could at his current stage. Of course, it might not be the best yet. But at least Ruan Faxi felt that even at his age, at his cognitive stage, it would be difficult for him to do better than him. "How much?" "The 2 red ones are $100, and the purple one is better." "It's at least $500, the boy said. "Are you short of money?" Ruan Faxburn asked. "Please, which kid doesn't need money?" The boy said matter-of-factly, "I just changed my girlfriend, so it's natural that I'm short of money." Hee, I'll take all 3 rings." Ruan Faxi drew a few franklins. "Thank you for your generosity." The smile on the boy's face was almost overflowing. But, before the boy could get the money, Ruan's tone suddenly changed. The boy instinctively felt that something was wrong. "However, I still need you to modify the magic circuits of these 3 rings." The boy frowned and looked at Ruan with dissatisfaction. Modify magic circuits. This was the best he could do. How else did he want her to modify it? "Are you using the Heart's Net diagram magic circuit?" "The Mind Net diagram isn't friendly to most spiritualists, so I hope that you can modify the magic circuit into the Holy Circuit magic circuit." "What Heart Net diagram? What Holy Circuit magic circuit?" The boy was completely dumbfounded. It was the first time he had heard such a professional term. "If you can help me modify it, I can pay you $30,000, Ruan Faxi said. Upon hearing the $30,000, the boy forgot everything. $30,000. He had to make hundreds of magic rings to earn that much. But he really didn't understand what the Heart Net diagram or the Holy Circuit magic circuit was. According to this man, the magic circuit he was using now was the Heart Net diagram. Then what was the Holy Circuit magic circuit? "Sir, I'm just a beginner. I don't know what the Holy Circuit magic circuit is, but it would be best if you could explain it." "You want to learn the Holy Circuit magic circuit? Can I?" The boy looked at Ruan Faxi carefully. "Do you know how much a magic book for the Holy Circuit magic circuit costs?" How much?" "A complete version costs more than $6 million. If it's a simplified version or a separate book, it's between $500,000 and $1 million. The boy sucked in a breath of cold air. "So expensive. Do you have a teacher?" Ruan Faxi asked. "Of course I do," the boy replied loudly. His answer seemed to be more of a way to boost his courage. "Is that so? What a pity. I originally thought that if you didn't have one, you could follow me and become my student." At the same time, you could read my magic book. Since you have a teacher, forget it. You're an alchemist too. Then why do you still want to buy these magic rings from me? Can't you make them yourself? Oh, these things you're selling, other than the purple one, which can barely be used once or twice, I'll just tear the 2 red magic rings apart. After all, the materials are more valuable than the rings themselves. By the way, you don't seem to know the prices. To be honest, the price you gave is too low. You'll lose a lot of money doing business like this. The boy's face turned green and red. You could have earned 10 times the profit, or even 100 times the profit, but now, I can only see you making a loss, a serious loss. Your craftsmanship is crude, and you're selling it at an extremely low price, not even a tenth of the price of the raw materials. I really don't understand what your teacher taught you. You can't become rich like this. Do you know that alchemists are super rich? West and Chen Zhao both chuckled without saying a word. Rich? You're not worthy of being called rich. Ruan Faxi was lying through his teeth. Alchemists indeed had a huge market profit. But at the same time, they also needed to spend a lot of money to maintain their research. The boy suddenly raised his head. Sir, I apologize for the lie just now. I don't have a teacher. I only found an alchemy book at home and learned everything by myself. Can you accept me as your student? Are you sure you don't have a teacher? Ruan Faxi asked to confirm again. Actually, he knew the boy's background very well. He even knew what color the boy was wearing today. Yes, sir. I swear. Do you know that alchemy can't be learned overnight? It requires perseverance and determination. Sir, I have perseverance. Chapter 30-23. Just like that, Ruan Faxben tricked a kid right in front of Chen Zhao and West. A 14-year-old minor. Chen Zhao and West didn't know why Ruan Faxben had called them here. Was he here to see his trickery? Okay, you succeeded. The two guessed maliciously. Just then, 2 more people came from the other side of the road. Hey, kid, you've been tricked. Chen Zhao, West, and Ruan Faxben all looked annoyed. The boy, on the other hand, looked surprised. When Ruan Faxben saw one of them, his expression turned even worse. The person was very young, only 16 or 17. Mr. Faxben, what's wrong with you? You didn't trick me last time, so now you're trying to trick a minor. The young man's disdainful tone made Ruan Faxben even more furious. The boy looked at Ruan Faxben in surprise. Thinking back, Ruan Faxben really did look like a liar. The boy took a few steps back instinctively. Just then, Chen Zhao and West got off. Ruan Faxben also got off. Domelin, I think you're a talented young man, Ruan said coldly. I want to recruit you as my disciple. You can refuse, but you shouldn't interfere with my recruitment of a new disciple. You'll also see this as cheating. Whatever. If that's really the case, why didn't you tell him that alchemists aren't rich at all? You can't even satisfy my small request. You actually lied to this kid and said that alchemists can make a lot of money, the young man called Domelin said bluntly. Just then, Chen Zhao walked up and poked Domelin's chest. Kid, are you the young man who doesn't know what's good for him that Faxben talked about last time? With your vision, you're only worthy of the title of a fallen magician family. You originally had a chance to get rich and at least restore some of your family's glory. But your brain and your pitiful knowledge of your family's inheritance that should have been broken long ago made you miss your last chance. Serves you right for your family's inheritance to end. Just then, the man beside Domelin stopped Chen Zhao. You'd better be polite to my people. Otherwise, I'll make you suffer. You want me to suffer? Chen Zhao sneered at the man. Do you know who I am? I don't care who you are, but you better know who you're facing. Domelin stared at Chen Zhao with a pale face. Chen Zhao's words had deeply hurt him. Chen Zhao fished out a few rings from his pocket. Domelin's pupils suddenly contracted. These rings were all high-grade goods, and all of them exuded an astonishing magical aura. However, that was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that the main raw materials of these magic rings were from WIRMS. West stepped forward. Boss, the magic rings on your hand are obsolete. I forgot to give you the new ones. With that, West took out a handful of magic rings. Which ones do you need? Domelin's pupils suddenly constricted. What magic material is this? It felt even more amazing than the magic ring made from dragon materials. Why aren't there any magical spring rings? I like them. Boss, magical spring rings can only provide magic power. They're not that effective. But I like that color. Boss, I'll go back and make them now, Ruan Faxben said. Forget it. Without magical spring rings, I don't need these. Faxben, remember to improve the appearance when you go back. Yes, boss. Chen Zhao picked up a ring and put it on his finger. Then he looked left and right and shook his head. It doesn't look good. With that, Chen Zhao took off the ring. Under Domelin's shocked gaze, Chen Zhao crushed it. Chen Zhao looked at Domelin. Ah, sorry. I shouldn't do this in front of a poor mage family descendant like you. After all, you probably can't even afford dragon blood crystals. But you're not bad now. You're a good match for the person beside you. Domelin's expression did not need to be mentioned. The man beside him did not look too good either. Dragon blood crystals? He vaguely remembered that the magic shops in Los Angeles sold an extremely expensive magic material called dragon blood crystals. He'd heard of the price. It was definitely frighteningly expensive. But Chen Zhao had crushed a dragon blood crystal so casually. This was a waste of a heavenly treasure. Even though they knew that Chen Zhao was using this method to regain his face, they still felt that it was a waste. But they still felt that it was too wasteful. Sir, don't you think it's too much to insult a young man like this? Chen Zhao, West, and Ruan Faxben all looked proud. Am I insulting him? Chen Zhao turned his head to look at West and Ruan Faxben. No, I think you're letting those who overestimate themselves see reality, especially those poor mage families. Ruan Faxben found the joy of revenge. Chen Zhao looked back at the boy. Kid, let me introduce myself. I'm a billionaire. I don't think you're worth lying to you. Sorry, as a businessman, I have to focus on profits first. We came to you because we think you have value that can benefit us. No matter if it's in normal society or in the spiritual world, you have to show your value first before you can get the corresponding return. Don't be like him, who thinks that he should get $1 for every dollar he creates. To be honest, even alchemy isn't as profitable as you think. But I can guarantee that if you create $10 million, you'll get 1 million. As for them, you can follow them. Their goal is the same as ours, your talent. Forgive me for being honest, but you might need 20 to 30 years to earn $1 million. I can guarantee that you'll become a billionaire in 10 years, but you'll need to spend 1 or 2 years studying first. Okay, make your choice. Follow these poor guys or follow us. Domelin's expression became even worse. It wasn't just because Chen Zhao humiliated him every time. It was also because he was tempted. This man radiated the aura of a rich person from head to toe. This was a fatal attraction for the heir of a poor family. Looking at the boy, Ruan Faxben pointed at Domelin. You're not the only one, just like how he's not the only one. Ruan Faxben's words made Domelin feel even worse. Chapter 30-24. The man beside Domelin clenched his fists. It seemed like he could attack at any moment. Chen Zhao wasn't as tall as Domelin, but his gaze was condescending. Before you attack, you better know who my boss is, West said. Even your higher-ups don't dare to look at my boss like that, kid. Even if I threw your head in front of your house, the higher-ups in your family wouldn't dare to fart, West said. West looked at Domelin. I have to say that you rejected us and chose the worst. The only team that could compete with the supernatural organization in Los Angeles was undoubtedly the psionic team. Chen Zhao didn't attack because Domelin was just a small fry in the psionic team. He probably hadn't joined for long, or else he would have recognized Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao hadn't been to the psionic team's headquarters for long. It hadn't even been a month. This meant that the man before him and Domelin had joined the team less than a month ago. Of course, Domelin understood what West meant. He'd thought that he'd made a good choice. At least the psionic team had given him a lot of research support. In particular, the few requests that he had made were satisfied to a certain extent. But what people feared the most was a comparison between people. His teammate, who'd supported him before, suddenly became taciturn. It was as if he'd been scared by him. That was the truth, because Therma suddenly remembered something. When he joined the psionic team, the older generation had given him a warning. In Los Angeles, the psionic team had an old enemy. And the boss of this enemy was an Asian. He was a terrifyingly strong enemy that made one's hair stand on end. Therma felt like he'd hit the jackpot. No, it wasn't a feeling. He'd really hit the jackpot. Without surprise, the boy chose Ruan Faxben. He was at an age where he could understand things. The magic rings he'd made weren't really spent on his girlfriend. He was just making money for his family. It was a practical problem. He'd follow whoever could make him rich. He'd follow whoever could make him a millionaire. It had nothing to do with good or evil, loyalty, or anything like that. He didn't even know Ruan Faxben. He was only attracted by Chen Zhao's words. Even if Therma and Domiron gave him 99% of the profits, if the actual price of the sale was only a few $100s, why didn't he go with Ruan Fassbender? Perhaps he could only get 10% of the profits, but a low rate of return would give him a higher return. It was like one was selling luxury goods while the other was selling daily necessities. Could the profits of daily necessities compare to the profits of luxury goods? Kid, you haven't introduced yourself yet. In the car, Ruan Faxben said. Since you've come to my door, don't tell me you haven't investigated my identity. At least my name shouldn't be a secret. You're the disciple I've chosen. Behind you are my boss and my superiors. You should at least tell them your name instead of letting your teacher introduce you. The boy in the passenger seat looked back at Chen Zhao and West. Greetings, sirs. I'm Tamika. Hi, you can call me President or Chin. What organization are we? Righteous? Or evil? Actually, we're half a government department, West said. There's no such thing as righteous or evil. You just have to remember that we have law enforcement rights in California. Then can I teach those bastards in school a lesson without worrying about being taken away by the police? No, you can't. Also, even if you join the supernatural organization, you'll only be a technical support. Fighting has nothing to do with you. How long do I need to study to earn money? If it's just a basic salary, West said. But if you really want to earn money, you need to study with Fax Ben for at least 3 years. Basic salary. How much? It's probably higher than your father's income. Really? My father's income isn't low, Tamika said excitedly. Actually, his father was a high-risk firefighter, so his income wasn't low. The average firefighter in Los Angeles earned more than $60,000 a year. However, Tamika's mother was sick, so more than half of his family's income was used to pay for his mother's treatment. His mother was also pregnant. In 4 months, he would have a sister. But this also meant that his family would have another mouth to feed. At the same time, his father's promised family vacation plan at the end of the year would be ruined. This was how Americans spent money. Most families didn't have more than $1,000 in savings. But I'm still in school. Tamika looked at his teacher, troubled. I don't really care about school, but I can't tell my parents that I'm going to learn magic and that I'm quitting school, right? Don't worry. Soon, you'll be transferred to another school. It's already been arranged. You can just report to the headquarters every day. As for your grades and attendance, they'll be reported to your parents regularly. In their eyes, you're still the good kid who goes to school on time. But are you sure you won't be exposed? You should be in school now. Since we met here, it means that this isn't your first time skipping school. Tamika scratched his head awkwardly. Can I get my salary in advance? I want. Yes, this is your bank card. Your salary will be directly deposited into this card. But once you accept this card, it means that our relationship is established. If you break the promise, your misdeeds since young will be shown to your parents, including you being caught peeking at a girl's underwear, the teacher asking you to look for your parents, and the fact that you hired a father, Ruan Fax Ben said sternly. Tamika shuddered. He felt like he'd fallen into a wolf's den. Is it too late for me to back out now? Then your parents will receive this gift tonight. Tamika might only be 14, but he matured early. People said that children of the poor matured early. Tamika was an example. Also, your mother's illness isn't difficult to treat. Modern medicine can't solve it, but magic can, Ruan Fax Ben said. Really? Can I? Of course, but you have to wait until she gives birth. Also, you can use this time to study potions. Although I'm not an expert in potions, I still have many related books. Our chairman is also a top medical expert. You can ask him for advice. No, don't look for me. I don't have much time. Chapter 30-25. The supernatural youth fighting competition that West was in charge of was being prepared in an orderly manner. It wasn't hard for the supernatural organization to organize a low-level competition like this. It was just money. Everything was fine as long as they had money. Of course, it couldn't be compared to a high-end competition. For example, the Battle of the Holy Light was millions of light years ahead of the supernatural youth fighting competition. The Battle of the Holy Light used a mirror image of a city as the arena. The supernatural youth fighting competition was held in a regular stadium. Only the top forces in the world could participate in the former. The latter could basically be judged as a competition to make up the numbers. To be honest, those with real potential were almost unwilling to participate. Chen Zhao didn't interfere. He couldn't either. It was the best choice to leave it to West. Chen Zhao would only be a hindrance if he did. The invitations were sent out too. However, he wasn't sure how many people would participate yet. Europe, Switzerland. A man wearing a hat and a trench coat walked into the cafe. After looking around the cafe for a while, he walked towards a table. Carrie. Carrie raised her head and looked at the man in front of her. Bayan. The man before her was her adoptive father. He was Bayan, the deputy leader of the New Era Church, who was listed as wanted by the governments of various countries on TV. Bayan glanced at Xiao He, who was sitting beside him. He couldn't help but frown. Who is he? Interpol? Or a government agent? No, she's my friend, Carrie said. She came with me this time. No, she doesn't look like your partner. Bayan wasn't very skilled in the outside world, but he still had a good eye. I didn't say she's a thief. Anyway, you don't have to worry about her. Carrie rolled her eyes. Aren't you going to sit down? You'll be more conspicuous like this. And you're standing in the aisle. Are you afraid that people won't know you're wanted? Bayan still sat down. He looked at Carrie. Why did you come to me? You shouldn't have come. Of course. How did you become the deputy leader of a cult? Are you out of your mind? No, I know what I'm doing. Listen, Carrie, buy a plane ticket back to Los Angeles immediately. I'm not joking with you. Did someone threaten you? Bayan, come back with me. I know someone. I can ask him to protect you. Bayan rolled his eyes. Do you even know people? Bayan had watched Carrie grow up. She knew all too well Carrie's network of people. I am now a wanted criminal in many countries. I just need to spend some money. Carrie had thought about it. She would borrow money from Chen Zhao later. Since she had already borrowed $1 million, she didn't mind borrowing another $1 million. Anyway, you don't have to worry about my business. Go back immediately. I have my own business. Bayan, is the cult your career? Don't lie to me. You don't have any faith at all. You don't even believe in a proper religion. Why would you run over to a cult? And that New Era, how stupid is the person who came up with this name? Shut up, don't talk about this name casually, Bayan said in a low voice. I won't leave unless you come back with me. Go back. I'll be caught as soon as I reach the airport. How can I go back? Don't be stupid, Carrie. You don't have to worry about my business. Just leave. That's impossible, Carrie said calmly. Maybe I should yell right now so that you can't escape. Bayan's face darkened. Carrie, it's dangerous here. I'm serious. You shouldn't have gotten involved. So you knew that you joined a cult, or were you forced to join? In short, I was safe before you came. You made me less safe. Fine, we'll leave today. Xiao He, book the plane tickets. A moment later, Carrie showed Bayan her phone. Look, I've already booked the tickets. Bayan stared at Carrie with a dark expression. Don't play tricks like this. It's not funny at all. Who do you think you are? You only have enough money for a round trip. So, whether I book the tickets or not, you won't believe me. But I hope you're serious this time, Carrie. I don't want you to get involved. You don't understand what you're facing. Magic. Werewolves. Vampires. Gods. Bayan, I've come into contact with some mysterious things in the past few months. I know much more than you can imagine, Carrie said disapprovingly. Come on, you've come into contact with magic. You even need to use a computer to add and subtract from 1 to 10. Can you understand magic formulas? Carrie was furious. She gritted her teeth and glared at Bayan. She glanced at the coffee cup on the table. Slowly, it floated up. Bayan was shocked. His expression changed drastically. Damn, what's going on? How did you do it? Do you really know magic? Humph. What else do you have to say? Heavens, how is that possible? Tell me, Carrie, is there really magic in this world? Didn't you join an evil cult? The person who brought you in should have shown you some supernatural power. Otherwise, with your rationality, you wouldn't have joined. Maybe they gave you some unrealistic promises, such as money, women, power, and so on. Anyway, it's no different from a demon bewitching people. Bayan was speechless. He felt very uncomfortable. Because Carrie's words were spot on. Carrie, did you join some peacekeeping organization? Are you here to investigate the new era behind me? No, I'm just here to take you back, you idiot. A trace of disappointment flashed in Bayan's eyes. He sighed. Forget it, go. Even if you have supernatural power, you can't fight against the new era. Listen to me and leave. Do you think I'll leave empty-handed? Or you can give me the information about the new era. I'll call the police and let them handle this matter. You can be a tainted witness. Carrie, you're too naive. How much information do you think I have? You're the deputy head. You should know a lot, right? No, in fact, the information I have is pitifully little. I'm not sure if all the police in Switzerland can solve this. I heard that Switzerland is an active area in the supernatural world. There should be professionals involved. Don't worry. Supernatural world. Is that what people with superpowers like you call it? Chapter 30-26. Both Xiao He and Carrie were surprised. They had thought that since Bayan had joined an evil cult, he would have more or less come into contact with the supernatural world. They didn't expect Bayan to say such amateurish words. Either this cult was just an empty title, or Bayan's position as the deputy cult leader was just an empty title. Carrie was considering whether or not to use force. She directly tied Bayan up. At that moment, Bayan pulled up his sleeve. Both Xiao He and Carrie were startled. There was a bloated tumor on Bayan's arm. The two of them felt nauseous and shocked at the sight of it. What's this? You can think of it as a time bomb, Bayan said helplessly. It's out of range, Bua. Carrie hesitated, but still reached out and poked the tumor. Do you feel anything? No. How can we remove this thing? There's no way. Someone in our church tried. You don't want to know the result. The two fell silent. Carrie said again, maybe I can find a way. Don't even think about it. Nobody can do it. Bayan stood up. Carrie, go. If there's a chance in the future, I'll visit you. Bayan, I feel like you're making arrangements for your funeral. Shut up. I'm not dead, Bayan swore. I'm leaving. This time, Carrie didn't stop Bayan. She knew that he was in danger. But she also knew that if she stopped Bayan now, he would probably die. Xiao He and Carrie stared at each other for a long time. What do you think? Carrie asked. First of all, there's something I don't understand. What is it? Why did this evil cult of the new era find your adoptive father to be the deputy leader? Forgive me for being blunt, but he's just an ordinary person. He has no abilities, no magic, no identity, no status, no money, and he doesn't even have knowledge or manners. How can he be the deputy leader? Carrie's cheeks twitched. Damn it. How could Xiao He describe all of her adoptive father's characteristics so accurately? Obviously, her adoptive father was very successful in being a failure. In the past, he had at least some money, but after going bankrupt, he had achieved remarkable results in being a failure. Bjorn was simply a model, an excellent loser. No one could surpass him in this aspect. That's right, why would such a loser be appointed as the deputy sect leader? Just because he was a loser. That cult couldn't possibly be so lacking in manpower, right? If even Bjorn could become the deputy sect leader, he could even become their faith. So, why? Carrie was also full of doubts. Could it be that Brian has something that the cult needs? If I were the person in charge of the cult, I would have used force. I can't imagine how difficult it would be to get something from him. Maybe a round of beatings would be enough. Even if it was a gentler way, I reckon he would have gotten the thing he needed by sleeping with a woman, and then he would have thrown it away after getting it. That's why your adoptive father got the position of deputy hierarch in such a strange way. Jia Liwen felt that her adoptive father was really useless according to Xiao He. But why did it feel so real? Alright, you're right, but can you stop complaining about my adoptive father's shortcomings? For the first time, Jia Liwen felt that Xiao He had such a sharp tongue. Alright, let's get down to business. Why do you think? How would I know? Let's make a hypothesis. If the cult really wants to get something from your adoptive father, then what can't they take away? Jia Liwen couldn't think of anything that Bjorn had that the cult couldn't take away. Life? No, it's not difficult for the cult to kill 1 or 2 people, especially a piece of trash like Bjorn. It wasn't life, nor was it a soul. Just then, a loud noise came from outside the coffee shop. Then, the coffee shop started to shake violently, as if there was an earthquake. The customers and employees in the coffee shop were all frightened. Xiao He and Jia Liwen looked at each other and hurriedly ran out. The explosion came from across the street from the coffee shop. Then, they saw Bjorn escape into a car. 2 people leaned out of the car and fired at the car behind them. In the car behind them, 2 people were brazenly using magic. In any case, the one in front used a machine gun and the one in the back used magic. Jia Liwen and Xiao He were dumbfounded. Were all the European spiritualists so tough? They were using magic in public. Were North America and Huaxia outdated? Judging from the situation, it was obvious that the people using machine guns couldn't beat the people using magic. Of the 2 gunmen using machine guns, half of one's body was hit by a thunderstorm. Then, half of his body was gone, and his severed body hung on the car window. As for the machine guns they used, when they hit the spiritualists at the back, they would create ripples in front of them. Clearly, the magic shield protected them well. Jia Liwen, what do we do? For a moment, Jia Liwen didn't know what to do. After all, it was her first time seeing a magic battle. Or rather, she saw half of the magic casters. A hail of bullets and magic missiles collided. Let's wait and see. Jia Liwen decided not to move. She was worried about Bjorn's safety. But she didn't know what was going on. Just then, Bjorn's car started. It seemed that they also realized that they couldn't beat the people behind them in a head-on fight. Then, the flying car sped. Xiao He, hold my hand. Jia Liwen immediately summoned Jiao Wu and pulled Xiao He onto its back. After Xiao He and Jia Liwen rode on Jiao Wu's back, they automatically entered stealth mode. Jiao Wu, catch up with the 2 cars in front. Jiao Wu immediately started. Its speed wasn't any slower than the 2 speeding cars in front. The 2 cars chased and fled. Jiao Wu chased with all its might. Unknowingly, they had arrived in a dense forest. Suddenly, the door of Bjorn's car opened, and half of a body was thrown out. At first, the people behind them didn't care. However, a sudden change occurred. The upper half of the body suddenly squirmed and turned into a bloody monster. The monster looked like a strange ooze monster, but it exuded a bone-chilling aura. Whoosh, the bloody monster suddenly spat out a mouthful of pus. The car behind them didn't have time to stop. Instantly, half of the car melted. The people in the car quickly escaped. But someone was a step slower. His arm was stained with pus. Then, he watched as he was slowly eroded and dissolved. Chapter 30:27. The chasing party had lost a person. Only 2 men and 2 women were left, and their expressions were ugly. The flesh monster was still in front of them. Xiaohe and Carrie were hiding in the back. They had seen the scene just now. It had really given them a fright. What's that thing? That's disgusting. Although they had come into contact with many supernatural things, most of them were spirits or transformed spirits. However, the vast majority of them were either spiritual bodies or transformed into spiritual bodies. A small portion of them were magical beasts. They had never seen such a thing before. The flesh monster had subverted their definition of the word disgusting. It was disgusting to the extreme. The 4 people were helpless against the flesh monster's attacks. A burst of flames landed on the flesh monster's body, creating a splash. A normal person would have been badly mangled. But the flesh monster itself was badly mangled. The only one who had an obvious effect was an ice-type mage. Although it could not deal fatal damage to the flesh monster, it was very effective in slowing down the flesh monster's movements. But it could only slow it down. The damage of ice magic was also penetrative. If it was a normal creature, a few icicles would be enough to deal with it. If it was not dealt with, a few more icicles would be enough to kill it. But for this flesh monster, even 10 or 20 more would be useless. Then the 4 people began their famous strategy, kiting. It went smoothly at the beginning, but not long after, something went wrong. Seeing that it could not catch up to the 4 people, the flesh monster shot pieces of flesh at them. These pieces of flesh were directly separated from its body. Just like the first victim, the moment they touched a bit of flesh, their entire body melted into a pool of unknown liquid. If they landed on the limbs, it was fine. If they could cut them off in time, they could at least stop the melting process. But if they landed on the main body, neck, or head, it would be troublesome. Another person was hit. It was one of the women. At first, it got on her clothes, and in a panic, she slapped it off with both hands. Then her hands began to dissolve. She screamed in pain, but could not stop the flesh from dissolving. It was an extremely horrifying and disgusting scene. The expressions of the remaining 3 people were terrible. Fortunately, the flesh monster's splattered pieces were not large, only a few meters in diameter. If they left that range, they would not be a threat. Distance yourself. Don't get close to that organic fusion, the remaining woman shouted. The other 2 men were probably her direct subordinates, and they listened to her orders. I'll use ice magic to freeze its movements. Magni, use lightning magic to completely shatter the ice. Wade, you'll be in charge of burning the flesh and blood within it to ashes. The woman deploys in an emergency. The 3 of them formed a triangular encirclement while maintaining a distance of at least 5 meters from the organic fusion body. The woman was the first to cast a spell, and this time, she cast it with the greatest amount of magic power. Freezing wind freeze. The surrounding temperature dropped very quickly, with the temperature falling the fastest in the range of the organic fusion body. Even Carrie and Xiaohe, who were more than 30 meters away, felt a piercing chill. The organic fusion body was freezing rapidly. It did not seem to be completely unconscious. It fiercely shot a piece of flesh at the woman, trying to interrupt her spellcasting. However, the woman's magic had already been fully activated. The melted flesh and blood turned into ice cubes in mid-air and hit the woman's body, but she was unscathed. Soon, the organic fusion body could no longer split into pieces of flesh and blood. Its flesh and blood had already been frozen solid. Can I attack now? The two men could tell that their boss was having a hard time maintaining this ultimate spell. No, only the outer layer of flesh and blood has been frozen. We need to completely freeze it. If she were to shatter the outer layer now, it would be completely meaningless. Instead, it would cause all her previous efforts to go to waste. She was also trying her best to maintain the output of magic power. However, the amount of magic power consumed by this ultimate spell was too shocking. Every additional second of maintenance was a huge test for her. The outer layer of the organic fusion body was already covered by ice cubes. However, the woman was still holding on. This lasted for almost 10 minutes. Finally, the woman collapsed to the ground. Magni, do it. Magni had been waiting for a long time. He shouted, "Thunder meteor." A terrifying arc of lightning shot out from Magni's palms. Boom, the organic fusion body was blasted into more than 10 pieces. Wade didn't need the woman's reminder and immediately went to cast fire magic. Fire magic was very ineffective against the organic fusion body as a whole. However, it was very effective against the shards. Finally, with the sacrifice of 2 companions, the organic fusion body was finally destroyed. The remaining 3 were extremely tired. Moreover, they didn't look happy at all. They had sacrificed 2 people and their target had escaped. It could be said that their mission had completely failed. After a few minutes of rest, the woman suddenly looked at where Carrie and Xiaohe were hiding. "Are you going to come out yourself, or do I have to force you out?" Xiaohe and Carrie were both startled. They were like Hanwu, achieving physical invisibility. Unexpectedly, they were still discovered. Helpless, the two could only reveal their true forms. However, the moment they did so, everyone, including the woman, was shocked. Xiaohe and Carrie suddenly felt like they had been tricked. Too stupid. How could they be so stupid? The two even wondered if Chen Zhao would be punished more severely if he found out about this. "Who are you?" the woman asked. "Are you from the New Era Church?" No. Carrie hurriedly waved her hands. "We're here for a vacation. We just happened to see you chasing on the road, so we followed to see what happened." "Which country are you spiritualists from? Shouldn't you introduce yourself?" Carrie said. "Switzerland, Duke's Palace, Crandall's." "We're from America, Los Angeles," Carrie said. "You followed us secretly. If you were just watching, that's not right. You didn't help us. We're not good at dealing with these things. We're better at dealing with spirits and magical beasts." When Crandalls heard that the two women were from North America, he was already half convinced. He had heard about the situation in North America. It was a magic desert. "Foreign spiritualists, you need to go back with us to register. Will they restrict our freedom? We will do a preliminary investigation on your intentions and identity. After confirming that there are no mistakes, you'll be free. It won't be long, at most a day." Chapter 30-28. After some investigation, Codels confirmed that Xiaohe and Carrie were both from Los Angeles. Xiaohe was Chinese, but she was studying in Los Angeles. However, she also noticed that Carrie seemed to have a criminal record. Of course, these were all insignificant things. At least Codels confirmed that Xiaohe and Carrie were not their enemies. "You two are spiritualists too, right?" "Miss Wang, which Chinese sect are you from?" Codels asked. Codels was more interested in Xiaohe. It could not be helped. The supernatural world in China was too active. There were many mountain gates and sections. Official, private, and family. Almost all kinds of supernatural organizations could survive in China. Prosperity also meant that there would be powerful individuals and complete inheritances. This was why Codels was interested in Xiaohe. I can't tell you, but this Miss Carey's legacy is also from China. It's a top-level legacy. Cranlisos sucked in a cold breath. The top-level legacy in China. That was equivalent to the top-level legacy in the world. No one could deny this. There were only a few that could be called the top-level legacy in China. Only Buddhism and Taoism had the right to be called the top-level legacy. Since Carey was a woman, it was obvious that she would not care about them. Then it could only be Taoism. Carey did not know where her spells came from either. But Xiaohe still had some knowledge. Therefore, she deduced Carey's heritage from the spells that she usually cast. Moreover, most of the spells that Carey had inherited were the more common evil spells of Mao Mountain Town. These spells were easy to distinguish. They were Mao Mountain's signature spells. Then there was Yuwu. According to Carey's description, Xiaohe went to investigate. She found that Yuwu was also Mao Mountain's guardian beast. Codels looked at Carey in surprise. Are you two interested in joining our organization? Your organization? Is the Swiss Duke's palace official? No, but we're supervised by the government. Sometimes, we'll accept missions from them. Xiaohe and Carey looked at each other. It felt like the Swiss Duke's palace was similar to the supernatural organization. They already knew that Qin Zhao was the leader of the supernatural organization. The supernatural organization was also a similar organization. But it was also different. The supernatural organization was working for the government in exchange for the government's benefits. If the government did not give them any benefits, then everyone would part on good terms. It was more like an employer-employee relationship. But what was up with this Swiss ducal palace? Only obligations, no rights. Sorry, we all have our own organizations, Xiaohe said. Is that so? What a pity. Cranlisos wasn't surprised. It was very common for spiritualists to form teams. Can you tell me about the group of people you fought with yesterday? They're a cult. New Age. Have you heard of them? I've heard of it. There was nothing to deny. It had already been reported to the media. It would be a lie to say that he had never heard of it. What kind of magic is that? That's not magic. It's a product of twisted technology. If it's magic, it would be easier. After all, magic has been evolving for thousands of years. No matter how strange the magic is, we can trace it back to its source and find a way to break it. But this kind of twisted technology is a big headache for us. That doesn't seem too difficult to solve, right? It wasn't that Xiaohe and Carey were looking down on each other. At least, they felt that if it were the two of them, it wouldn't be a problem to deal with dozens of them at once. It wasn't like Cranlisos, who only managed to kill one of them after losing 2 out of 5 of them. Those monsters are called organic fusion bodies. As you can see, they're extremely troublesome, but that's only the lowest level of monsters. Besides, the most troublesome thing about organic fusion bodies is that they can fuse infinitely. A true infinite fusion. Cranlisos said with difficulty, a month ago, our ducal palace had a huge battle with the New Age. We won, but it was a terrible victory. All our main forces were killed, 60 in total. I was originally a second-string member, following a teacher. I was still on probation, but after my teacher died, I was promoted to official combat force. So were my teammates. No wonder. They were only second-string members. They were just forcefully promoted. Even though their identities had changed, their nature didn't change. They were still second-string members. That new age is that strong. Cranlesis smiled bitterly. If they weren't strong, they wouldn't have been able to roam around Europe. Isn't that their full strength in Switzerland? No. According to the information we received from the International Supernatural Organization, members of the New Age have been gathering in Switzerland for the past half a month. They are gathering there through various channels. They might be planning a terrorist attack in Switzerland, or they might be searching for something. That's all we know so far. As for their goal, we don't have a clear answer yet. What about the government? Doesn't it care? Our ducal palace is the only weapon the government has. Because of this battle, the ducal palace suffered a great loss. Now, the government has no choice but to seek help from other allies. Isn't Europe the most active region in the supernatural world? Why can't I sense anything at all? Cranlesis shook his head. Switzerland is on the fringes of paranormal activity, and there are only a few countries that are active. Before this incident, the government had been suppressing paranormal activity in the dark. Besides, there are actually a few local paranormal organizations, but because they are not recognized by the government, they have always been small in size. That's why those organizations are secretly gloating over the incident, hoping to see the government make a fool out of themselves. So you're short on manpower now. Are you interested in joining us? Forget about joining, but I'm fine with helping, Jollywen said. They lacked information and were completely clueless about the current situation. Moreover, they didn't have the legal authority to act. If they could temporarily borrow the power of the ducal palace and participate in the operation, it would be easier for them to understand the situation and rescue Bjorn. Cranlesis was naturally willing to accept their help. After all, the ducal palace was in dire need of manpower. They already had the intention to rope them in. Even though Xiao He and Carrie didn't join them directly. At least, they would be happy to help. Do we need to pay attention to anything? Or are there any restrictions? Try to avoid fighting in public to avoid hurting ordinary people. That's the only requirement. Chapter 30-29. Sure. Xiao He and Carrie both nodded. I have some magic equipment. You guys can get one too. We do, Xiao He said. We're all professionals. We're completely different from the alchemists outside. Also, it's free. Alright. Since it was free, Xiao He and Carrie didn't refuse. They followed Cranlesis to the warehouse and each got a set of equipment. Get ready. We're leaving soon. So soon. Didn't you say it's night? Yeah, it's night. But we still have to count the time on the road. Xiao He and Carrie sat in the back seat while Cranlesis drove. There were 6 cars in front and behind them. Including the 2 of them, there were 21 people. What's this ring for? It's a magic storage ring. It can replenish your mana after you use it. You'll be able to recover in 20 minutes. I have one too. Can I use 2 at the same time? Carrie asked as she took out a golden ring. Cranlesis glanced at it through the rearview mirror and almost forgot to step on the gas. How did you get a golden scale dragon ring? Is this thing called a golden scale dragon ring? You don't know. This is the first time I've heard of it. Xiao He, have you heard of it? It's the first time I've heard of it. I have too, Xiao He said. How is that possible? Where did you get it? I got it from an evil spirit. What? No, nothing. They couldn't possibly say that they were trapped in a dungeon and struggled in that dungeon for almost a month. Carrie continued to rummage through the bag and found another pendant. What's this for? Pendant of Spirit Explosion. It can increase your magic damage by around 10%. It's useless. What about this? Power of illusion. It can transform into the shape of any weapon you want, but it consumes a lot of mana. What about this? Holy water. It can remove most curses. What about this? Antidote. What about this? Unyielding strength. It can increase your magic resistance and powerlessness resistance. Carrie was a little disappointed. Although the magic tools in the bag were free, they were not enough. Although the magic items in the bag were free, they overlapped with her own equipment and potions. Moreover, they were all weakened versions of her equipment and potions. Moreover, most of them could not be stacked. In other words, none of these things could be used. Xiao was almost the same. She had also obtained a lot of equipment in the instance dungeon. Just his pocket alone was probably stuffed with a few rings. There were still a lot of magic concoctions in the small bag hanging on his waist. The car stopped on the outskirts of their destination. Everyone began to check their equipment. Then, he approached his destination on foot. Not long after, more than 20 people came to a cave in the forest. There were a few people outside the cave. They were all armed gunmen. Both Carrie and Xiao noticed that all of them had a sarcoma on their arms. Just like Bayan. The two of them looked at each other. Is Bayan here too? At this time, Cranlisi said in a low voice, "Follow me later. Use ranged magic when I attack. We can't give them time to react. If they activate the parasites, we'll be in trouble. Get ready. Aren't you going to use ranged magic?" Instantaneous, Carrie said. In fact, Yuan Wu was ready to strike. You have enough time to prepare a more powerful spell, Cranlisi said. In her opinion, channeling spells were definitely more powerful than instantaneous spells. So, she felt that Xiao He and Carrie should choose channeling spells. Both Jia Liwen and Xiao He felt helpless. They could only cast spells instantly. Perhaps it was because Chen Zhao had taught them. Chen Zhao scoffed at spells that required chanting, especially those that took a long time. So, he kept emphasizing that they did not need to use spells before him. Chen Zhao considered any spell that took more than 1 second to charge up as trash. He always said that 1 second was enough for him to whip a corpse 100 times. So, Carrie did not need to charge spells at all. Xiao He could do it, but compared to the instantaneous release of magic, her charged magic was not enough. Forget it. Cranlisi did not have time to argue with them. The others were almost ready and could attack at any time. Attack! In an instant, Xiao He and Carrie moved as well. Xiao He suddenly stood up and grabbed at the two people in the distance. Refined blood explosion. In an instant, the two men were blasted into a bloody mess. Carrie's reaction was not slow either. Yuan Wu burst out instantly. In the blink of an eye, it reached a gunner. With a swipe of its paw, the man flew away. Another swipe, another flying. Finally, another swipe. In less than half a second, all three of them were killed by Yuan Wu. Cranlisi and the others stood rooted to the spot, shock written all over their faces. Was this a joke? The two of them had killed 5 people together. There were only 2 people left. They immediately aimed their guns at Carrie and Xiao He. No nonsense, just shoot. Refined blood explosion. In an instant, the two of them also exploded into flowers. Cranlisi's face was full of disbelief. The two of them had killed all the sentries. Good job, Cranlisi said. She did not expect Xiao He and Carrie to react so quickly. They were even faster than her, the one who gave the orders. It was too easy. It felt like the 8 people were like lambs. They were like tigers. What's next? Enter this cave. This is a new era stronghold. I heard they are researching a new type of organic monster. The others came to clean up the corpses on the ground. The people Xiao He killed did not even have a chance to resist before they were killed by Xiao He. Only those who were killed by Yuan Wu were still intact. These corpses were quite troublesome. If they didn't deal with it properly, it wouldn't be long before the parasites on their arms completely took over their bodies. Then they would turn into organic amalgamations. It was the thing that Xiao He and Zhao Liwen had seen today. Cran Lisi reminded them, kill all living things in this cave, be they human or animal. If you don't destroy them within 10 minutes, they will devour the host's body and turn into the thing you saw today. The two of them did not dare to be careless. They carefully followed Cran Lisi's Crimson. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.